Uh-huh. Oh, Mohinder. God dang it. Please review face recognition. No, I don't want to review that. Not interested. I think it was my phone number. Nope. There we go. I figured it out. La 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 la. This is kind of annoying, actually. Maybe if we do this. Aha. Hmm. White noise? What else? Kind of cool. Wow. Yellow wowzers. Yes, we're gonna have the show in a minute, but first, I need to tag people. So y'all need to hold your horses. I don't know if anyone's not holding horses or not, but you need to hold on regardless.
You're talking to me.
The people, they're actually not even being upset or anything. I'm preemptively telling them to calm down. Just in case. Why doesn't this being just speak the truth? Truth is complicated, right? I'm not going to tag everybody here, but I can tag some people here. Just because. And then we'll get on to the show in like 1 minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes full. Maybe I'll tag Ben. Maybe Ben will come on. You're right. That's unlikely to happen. That's enough. And so then you're using the computer audio. Speaker, microphone is correct. Okay. Either that one or, oops. Hello, Rin. That's not it. How come my live isn't showing on the front of my page? Is that what you were talking about last time?
YouTube?
Yeah.
It never showed up at all. All that saying while you were live. I don't know. I wasn't watching YouTube.
Oh, it is showing now. It is indeed. Okie doke. Now we need to go here. Nope, that's not it. Hey, Eden's here. Hey, Robbie's here. What's up, Robbie? Hey, the baby's here.
You can see that?
Hi, baby.
What's
Yeah.
up, man?
What's up?
Here, I can put this on the. Here, hold on. Babe.
Oh, well, baby does.
Hold on, I can put this on your stomach.
Hey,
Yeah.
hey, Robbie's here.
I know.
What's up, Robbie? Okay,
Hey, the
hold on,
baby's
you
here.
guys. I gotta share this here real quick.
Hi, baby.
Dang
What's
it.
up?
You guys should probably turn your audio down because it's.
Here, hold on.
Yeah, we're gonna turn our audio off. Baby does.
Hold on, I can put this on your stomach.
Hi, baby.
I know.
This is the first time I've seen Baby live. This is Malachi, right?
Okay, hold on, you guys. I
Hi.
gotta share this here real quick.
What's up?
Baby.
Wow.
What's up? You guys should probably turn your audio down because it's.
Actually, I can turn mine. This is probably mine, I think. I'm yelling at you guys, and it's actually me.
Oh yeah, I think it might be you over there.
Hi, baby.
Yep. Okay, we have fixed that issue. I just need to share my Zoom link with my other people. Copy.
I'm gonna go ahead and mute myself real quick.
Yeah, that's good. How are you guys doing? It's been a while.
Good.
It's been a minute.
Just good.
Playing low.
Yeah. Laying low. Quarantined.
Yep.
The whole thing.
Is San
I started
Francisco
growing
dead
weed
outside?
before this happened, so I've been happy about all this.
Say what?
I've been growing marijuana.
Oh yeah?
Yeah.
You've got your trade system getting set up? That's good.
Yeah.
Groups. How's the having children life treating you guys?
Having what?
Having children.
Oh man, it's amazing.
Yeah?
It's amazing. I went on paternity leave, and they let me go when I got back. And then this happened, the coronavirus thing. So I've just been, I don't know.
So you've been home for like a month, basically, Robbie?
Oh, I've been home since October.
Oh my god. Oh yeah, you said paternity leave. Okay, I got you.
I've been having a wonderful time just being home and just being home.
Yeah, that's
I have
awesome.
known that 9 to 5 my whole life since I was about 18. So I'm going to take probably the rest of the year off. Just to,
Yeah. That's everybody, right? Everybody's been in the rat race for so long they forgot what it was like to like say hello to the spouse or the children or whatever.
the first month that I took off before he was born was difficult because I had to learn to wind down from this 9 to 5 rhythm.
Mm-hmm.
It's like stepping out of a dance party and still having like it going through your head and whatnot, but you're like, all right, I'm done with that song, but you can't get it out because you're still like on. And
Right.
it took a month to calm down, and after that happened, it was so much easier to be like, oh my god, there's truly not really anything to worry about other than just like what's in front of you.
Yeah, it's not well, it's like if you remember back to being a kid, you know, before all the money stuff came in.
Right.
So simple, like you just go outside and just like ride your bike around, make some castles or whatever.
Yeah, yeah.
Real simple.
Eden says she likes your new pad.
Right? We have a child as well. Actually, we got yesterday. I'm going to show you in a minute.
Oh, yay.
We're, just so you guys know, this is, we do this every week, or we have been doing this every week with our Snail Collective group, so we might have other people jumping on here. Come here, kid.
Cool.
I always see it after the fact.
Katie, hey.
Oh.
Smokey's
That looks exactly like it. What's the name?
a what?
What's the name?
Smokey.
Are they getting another one?
No, you guys just have one, right?
Yeah, we got her yesterday. I mean, we already posted about her yesterday, but nobody saw her in person.
Just that one, right?
How's she doing?
She's pretty good for being in a completely new environment. She came from Washington.
Whoa. He's just like, what the heck? Hi, darling.
And she sees the dog, and you know they do this like hump shake with their back, get all puffy. Also, I need to not neglect my. This is also live.
Yeah, do your thing. I'm gonna mute and turn this towards the living room so Eden can take over when she sits down.
Yeah. So there's not a bunch of people. There actually should be a ton of people in here because everyone's in quarantine. But Ren, are you coming on? Ren, you haven't been on the show for a long time. You should hop on. Or maybe this is just time for the Robbie and Eden and Malachi show. That's a possibility.
I'm gonna mute real quick. Hold on.
Okay. Did you light incense? Okay. It's smoky in here. So Malachi is how old now? Like 3 months?
No way.
4 months?
4 months. He's huge.
4 months. Yeah.
He's huge.
Hi, baby.
He's so long. He's really long. This is 6 month outfit. He's like so big.
Yeah. Hi, Julie. Welcome. Can you hear us? Usually you have to click the speaker button at first to make sure that you can actually hear. You know how it works, right, Eden? Yeah. Julie, can you hear us? Well, we can keep on until she figures out the audio.
Hi, Julie.
You have to click, there's like a speaker button, and it says enable audio or something like that. You just have to search on your screen until you find top right, I'm not sure. But you're the one that has to do it. Did you figure it out?
Figured it out.
Oh, nice. Great.
Not very techno.
Yeah, it's okay. Where are you from, Julie?
I am from the UK,
Okay.
in a little village, well, sort of Pulton the Fylde it's called. It's near Blackpool. You've heard of Blackpool, haven't you?
Black Pearl?
Have you? Blackpool.
Pool?
Blackpool, yeah, it's
Have
where
you heard of
everyone
it?
normally goes to the UK for the...
I have
a
not
day
heard
out.
of it. No. Blackpool. That's interesting. Well, this is Eden. Eden, this is Julie, probably just one of my subscribers. Julie has not been on the show yet, but for this particular one, I just welcomed everybody to come on and say hello. So we might have random people coming in.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
So how's it over in the UK? How does it feel like outside?
Well, we're not too bad here because we're in a little village, so it isn't really people policing as such. There's a few,
Yeah.
but in the bigger cities like Manchester and London and that, it's pretty chaotic, to say the least.
Is everybody following the quarantine order, or are people generally staying indoors?
No, not really. Not where they're stuck in the houses. Like people are still. I've never seen so many people exercising in all my life. Because you're allowed to exercise.
Yeah. Yep.
So yeah, it's sort of just like that at the minute. You know, there is people that are really, you know, I don't know, give you filthy looks or you know, looking through the windows like, oh, the breaker won't get the army in.
Yeah. It's interesting times. Eden, I remember, I think I did one of my like first live shows at your house, right? This was like, it was not the very first one, but I think you were a part of when I very first started doing this. This was like 2 years ago, right?
Yeah. I've watched it for probably from the beginning.
Wow.
Yeah, I think it's around then. I'm not quite sure. I think I was bumping around in the background when you were doing the last show here.
Yeah, no, you weren't on it, but I was in there. I remember I talked to Ehor back in the day.
Oh yeah.
I did like 1 or 2 live shows. What's up, Omar? Can you
Hey, how's it going?
Good. I can see one corner of your forehead.
Yeah, I'm in my coffee making kitchen.
Hey, Ashley's here too. Excellent.
The other way around. I'm in my kitchen making coffee.
I love that we all have our own vices. I've got a PBJ.
Did you say you're in the coffee making a kitchen?
I don't know if it's a vice. I think it's essential for life.
What's up, Ashley? You made it
What's
to the show.
up?
How's it going?
Oh shit! Hi.
It's great. Happy Sunday.
Yeah.
Good morning, Ashley.
Good morning, beautiful people. Actually, afternoon where I'm at. I saw that you were doing this, and I was like, I'm going to jump on and say hi to the friends.
Yeah, why not? Why not? It's a free-for-all for today. I mean, like, the order has never really held itself together too terrifically well, so I think free-for-all, you know, so long as we don't get way too many people, should be fun.
So who do we have here with us today, Gary?
We have, there's Ren. We have Eden, which Eden was like the very first person that I ever Robbie was literally the first person that ever reached out to me, a physical human being from the channel, and like invited me to come hang out and chat.
That's my husband and partner, and he used to be a huge fan of Gary back in the day, and now we're good friends.
Mm-hmm.
Hello, everyone.
And this is Julie. Julie is from the UK. She's just hopping on to say hello. You know Ashley and Rin. You also know Rin, so it's just Julie and Eden that you don't know. Omar.
Hello, everyone. Hi, Omar.
Hey.
Oh,
hello, Eden.
That's
Ashley.
Malachi. Malachi, the baby, is 4 months old.
Yeah, I popped on to say hello to Malachi. Oh, he's beautiful.
Thank you. He's so control.
So there's no theme for today other than like let's talk about what it feels like to be inside of our houses again, and not have the regular like 9 to 5 grind. I think is Robbie around still? Robbie's somewhere out in the kitchen. Oh, Eden. I don't know where Eden is. Eden, how are the pet kids? Daily and
pet kids? I've got no idea. But, I watched a video of my friend who is one of the many, and he was making some lovely food in his kitchen and live streaming.
No, your pet kids. How are Daly and Jameson?
Oh! He said the tech kids, because in SF it's just all 100%.
Why did I ask about the tech kids? I don't care.
I was like, okay. The fur babies are good. This is Jameson. He's a lab border collie.
Mm.
And he's almost 11 years old. And then, Daly is, I don't know, she's like about 2 now, but she's probably outside killing mice. It's raining here in San Francisco.
Does she bring you mice often?
Yeah, she kills mice and birds. She's a little huntress. She's like a jaguar in a little tiny tuxedo kitten form.
That's great. Yeah, the cat that we got. It's kind of interesting how it happened because we were just Andrea just said something like, "We're supposed to get a cat, right?" And then I was like, "Oh yeah, we're supposed to get a cat. Okay, we're gonna get a cat this weekend." And then we just went and looked at like 7 or 8 different ones, reached out to a bunch of people, and then only one of them was like, "Yeah, I have this cat," and only one of them was going to be viable. So we just basically went and got the cat, and it took about like an hour altogether. The most simple cat acquisition project I've ever been a part of. That was good.
What was the viability? What made you choose that one little lad?
Well, that was the only one that was actually a real thing. That was like nobody else even said, "Yeah, you can come visit." It looks like there's in the kitten to people wanting kitten market. It's a kitten selling market. Like there's lots of people wanting cats, and there's not very many people with cats in Oregon apparently. So we just managed to get, I guess, maybe one of the only available cats around. So, but she's like the perfect cat. She was very cool and collected. But then the night happened, and she was trying to wake us up multiple times during the night. But this is the first, it's the first night.
What's her name?
Smokey. Mm-hmm. How have you been, Ashley? Where are you at? Where are you at nowadays?
I'm in Pennsylvania still.
Pennsylvania?
Yeah. Yeah, I've been hanging out at the friend's house for about a week in the woods, which has been really nice. And I'm looking to get back to the West soon.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Is your daughter still with you?
No, she went with her dad last Wednesday.
Okay.
So she's in Phoenix right now. So my mom has surgery on the 14th of April. And so I've just been sitting with it. Like there's a big part of me that just wants to fly back now in case that there's more, mandates. But another part of me wants to, be there for my mom. So I've just been kind of sitting with that and discerning what is the most, wisest decision, which is really hard. It's like mama getting this like major surgery, but also the potentiality of flights being grounded, and then I can't get back out west to see my daughter. And I'm just like,
right. What type of surgery is it?
She has lung cancer. She's getting a mass removed from her lungs.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so it's very interesting. And I'm just kind of just day by day, moment by moment. Like if I did leave, if I was catching wind, like I know my mom would understand. But again, it's definitely a hard decision. So if I do come back out west, I'm probably going to be in SoCal for a bit.
Yeah, come out to Oregon and visit us.
That would be awesome. Yeah, I've never been to Oregon. I've been almost everywhere, but Oregon and Washington.
It's so nice here. We're very happy. It was.
Where in Oregon are you living?
We're in Portland.
Okay, cool.
We're literally it's an apartment complex. It's like a 3-story apartment complex, but it's like up a hill, so there's different levels, and it jets down a little bit, and then jets down. And there's a forest in our backyard, and then out the front window, it's like you can just see what pretty far you can. We're just in the center of a forest, and it's a really hilly area. There's all kinds of terrain to explore. There's trails all around. It's very nice.
That sounds awesome. I'm so happy for you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so anyone who wants to come visit who's capable is welcome to come say hello. We don't have a ton of room in the apartment, but we could probably throw you up a cot or something.
Hey, just so you know, I'm doing a presentation on Zoom next Sunday of how to identify a PSYOP. If anyone's interested, or if you know anyone interested, I felt that just my observation of everything that's going on and the massive amounts of reaction, as well as distorted thinking and a lot of the attachment to many of the narratives, I felt like it would be of good service for me to at least equip people with the tools that enable them to identify what a PSYOP is, how does it function, and what are some real life world examples of how historical.
Well, it wouldn't be very popular to use as an example, but this whole virus thing would be a pretty good one.
Just a little bit. I don't even know if I'm going to touch on the virus, but I am going to be touching on some pretty popular theories that are circulating right now, specifically the QAnon stuff, and not necessarily telling people what to think, but just to hand them the tools and to be able to kind of apply that as a measuring stick and just saying, hey, are any of these red flags showing up in this narrative and this narrative? So if anyone's interested in something like that, contact me.
What
It's
time?
free.
What time are you planning on doing this?
What time did I set it at? 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time next Sunday.
So 12 noon?
Pacific.
12 noon here?
Yeah.
On Sunday?
Yeah, next Sunday.
Yeah, the Snail Collective meeting that I do every Sunday is always at 10 a.m. It's usually from 10 to 12, so we could even just hop on yours when that one's done.
Cool.
I'd be down to participate.
Yeah, I'm totally down too. If you can share the link in the chat,
Yeah, I'll do that.
That'd be cool.
Yep, and we have 10 people with us on YouTube as well, so anyone who's watching on YouTube that would like to join Ashley's How to Detect a PSYOP conversation, mark that on your calendars. Did I break it? Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's interesting to try to discuss these things because, you know, the machine doesn't like anyone discussing it for the most part, so we talk about PSYOPs and, you know, there are lots of algorithmic suppressions going on. I really don't think that there's very much type of human being like, oh, you know, this person is speaking against such and so institution, so you know, shadow ban them. I don't think that's really how it is. I think the AI is doing most of it, honestly. That's my
It's
feeling.
interesting you say that. I was just examining an article today looking at PSYOPs within social media, and there was an independent company that was looking at Twitter, and when Twitter had like a huge explosion of people who signed up, made an account, but they were able to identify that almost 40% of Twitter accounts are bots. They're not real.
40%?
Almost, yeah.
Oh my god.
Wow. So that's a lot. That's a lot of stuff, you know, of just these, you know, bot generated fake accounts that are spreading propaganda and disinfo.
Yeah.
And gaining a lot of traction. So many people are literally following AI personalities and have no idea. And the way that the AI works and interfaces with human beings, it's pretty phenomenal to observe.
Uh-huh. Eden, if you want to say something?
No, I just was saying wow, and I think it's just ridiculous.
Yeah.
I had no.
I feel like the AI thing is something that can be explored more without the fear and paranoia lens, because
Yeah.
it's important to see what it is exactly, because it is also tied into us. It's not just that it's this thing that's, you know, possibly going to be weaponized. It's our lives. We are tied in with the AI. You're using it every time you use predictive texting. That's just like a low sort of level function of the thing, but it's very much in our lives, and there's no point in like, oh, you know, when's the AI going to have us all in Facebook cages and just like poking us through the thing? Like, there's no point in doing that unless you get off on the fear porn. Like, we need to be more mature than that, I think.
Yeah, I think that's a really healthy way of approaching it. I think I used to have more of a reactive attachment to it, but now I'm just like kind of fascinated by it all.
Yeah.
Like, wow, this is really interesting.
Yeah.
So right when I said it might not be a very popular example, Ashley, but you could use the virus for your PSYOP thing, I literally got disconnected from Zoom, and it refused to connect until I just used a different device.
Hey, that's a good sign, Ashley. That means like A-okay. We have lots of support for that idea. You just go the opposite of whatever the...
So what did somebody track me into the last 3 or 4 minutes? What did I...
we're just talking about the sort of expansiveness of AI and how it actually is. in almost all areas of our lives affecting us, and the idea that we can talk about the subject without looking through a fear lens, like we can talk about it in a very pragmatic, practical, non-reactive
Oh yeah,
manner.
yeah. Well, it's very much there, and it either affects you and you're aware of it, or it affects you and you're not aware of it.
I often will hear people,
or you're just observing it.
Yeah, observing is key. Because there's a lot of fear, and like I'll notice people, and we've all might have been there, but like people who've been gone to like Facebook jail, and they blame it on AI. And what I've observed with AI and like specifically social media is that it really kind of does reflect my state of consciousness and where I'm at. I mean, I definitely have been gang stalked, and I've had all this stuff going on. There's definitely things that have been censored, and yet at the same time, I've never experienced the type of censorship
Did it freeze again?
that a lot of people have. And I think it's where our energy is, where our focus is, It's really interesting the way that human beings interface with AI. Yeah. Looking at it from a consciousness perspective. I'm not talking about nano interfacing, you know what I mean?
Hi, Fabian. Oh, right as I said hi, Fabian, he disappeared. I have an example to relate what you're talking about, actually. This is a chess example, but it's very relevant to me. There's a chess server called lichess.org. And basically there's two main chess servers that compete with each other. It's Lichess and it's chess.com. And Lichess, when it first came out, it was AI flavored from the beginning. They even have an AI thing on there called, what's it called? Leela, L-E-E-L-A. And Leela is a self-taught, self-programming neural net computer that literally teaches itself to play chess by playing like millions of games over and over and over. It does not learn from people. It does not learn from books. It does not learn from anything but its own experience.
Wow, yeah.
But the way I saw I felt that the site was starting to become more AI than human, and it felt like most of the players were acting like AI, not like human beings. And I wasn't able to chat with very many of them. I still like the site. I'm not like Debbie Downing the site, but at one point I noticed, and I was telling Andrea this the other day, I noticed that this thing is connected with my emotions. So if I'm playing an opponent and I'm starting to get angry, the pieces will start trying to hold their position, so they won't want to let me move them, and that makes me lose time because I'm trying to click it over and over. It's like some quantum gravitation is trying to hold the thing in place due to my own emotion. And I wrote that thought in a comment in a message board that I'm on for Lichess, and that comment got shadow banned. So I was like, okay, so it doesn't want me talking about these, very obvious things that seem to be happening. It's very, very fascinating to me, though, to see.
It's so fascinating, and I think that if anything,
what's fascinating?
The way we interface with AI. Like, it feels like it's on this emotional frequency kind of quantum entanglement way.
Omar, I was trying to explain that when I'm playing chess on Lichess, if I get angry, the pieces literally react to my anger and they try to stay in place. They try to act like I'm dragging them through mud when I'm trying to move them. They try to like gravitate back to their position. And it feels like quantum interference, and I can't win the game when that's happening. It's literally impossible to play.
Do they actually appear physically different in the way that they move, or is it just a feeling?
It's a feeling, but I know, like, I've tested it multiple times, and the piece, it's like on my phone, I'm using my finger to drag the piece over, and when I'm angry, it won't want to move. It will literally try to, it works off my reactivity. I know that for a fact. I've tested
that's an electrical conductivity thing, because the touch screen is capacitive, so it reacts to your field. Yeah.
You think it's just via the touch?
I don't think so.
There's more to it than that, but that's just part of it.
I know. Omar's the more scientific minded of the group, and he always provides good contrast to the crazy theories, which is fine. Like, I don't have any problem with that.
Well, in this case, that's not crazy, because it is having some kind of tangible tunneling effect between your consciousness and your actions.
Yes.
But there's also the interaction between the device screen and your electrical field, your near field. And then there's also the interaction between your neuromotor cortex and your muscles and your inability to move your fine motor control when you get angry.
Yeah, that is a part of it too. I did notice that. I would be curious if, like, strictly scientifically speaking, is the electric capacitive function of the finger somehow lessened in connectivity due to anger, and you could explain it all in a very scientific fashion, or
in a sentence, yeah. Your spine and your cerebrospinal fluid and your blood and all of that, there's an orthostatic tension to the fluid matrix inside of your body under your skin. And when you're tense, things work less efficiently. And the body has to dictate where critical life support systems get the fluid pumped to, instead of an elective activity like knitting a scarf or smoking a cigarette.
Or playing chess.
Yes, exactly.
Right. Yeah, that's interesting.
So there's a functional delta with your overall health there as well.
Sorry, Julie, what were you saying?
Sorry, just talking about static and electricity. Has anybody noticed that there's more sort of static in the air or electricity? Anybody? Is that just me?
Are you in Scotland or Ireland?
No. Well, no, I'm in near Blackpool. Have you heard of Blackpool in the UK? Near the seafront.
No, but
it's in like Lancashire.
She's in the UK.
Oh, okay. Because I have a friend in Ireland who's been asking me about static electricity for like 2 years now.
Yeah, it seems to be a lot more, and I've noticed it probably last year when it's almost like I could see it all, like all the electricity, the clothing around me, and it's like, almost like there's so much static in the air, it's hard to describe it, but it's there.
Hey,
I'm starting to think they're doing an experiment on you guys.
Ashley, can you, via Messenger, send me the link to your Facebook thing? Someone wants it on YouTube. Please and thank you.
Oh, hey, baby.
It's on the Zoom chat, too. She posted on the Zoom chat, which is cool.
It needs to be going to my iPhone. I'm just being really lazy. If you can...
I have a question. This is really fucking fascinating for me. You had this experience when you were doing this online chess game, right?
On the iPhone, so it's touch capacitive.
On the iPhone.
It was not.
What about other random computer games, like especially for gamers who are playing live with other quote-unquote people? And I know that there are people, but I wonder if that potential also exists in other gaming platforms.
My husband says that it does.
Yeah. Wow.
Even when you're using stuff like mice?
Okay, I actually have something to add to this conversation, because LeechChess.com and Chess.com both have phone apps, and I use both of them. And I've been mad on Chess.com just as often as I've been mad on Leechess, and it doesn't do it on Chess.com. That particular thing I've only noticed on Leechess.
When you're doing Chess.com, do you get to use your trackpad?
No, I'm on the phone with my finger the same way as Leechess.
Oh, that's weird, huh?
Yeah.
Because I've noticed that when I use a mouse, I have more control over it if I'm frustrated than if I'm trying to use a iPad. And if I'm trying to use an iPhone and I'm mad, fucking forget about it. I may as well dart it into the wall and make it into an arc. Because it will not respond, and I just have to go into the other room and do something else. It's like maybe. I'm not there. Icons will stop and start, and
the
screens
the
will open and close.
The iPhone is like representative of the fall, right? We have the apple's the bad guy. He's the garden. He's the apple.
Why is the apple the bad guy? They taste great. I mean, never mind. You can't eat them anymore because of fucking Monsanto. But
yeah.
Gary, in response to the AI in the games, as you know, as a PC gamer myself, I'll just say I've come to learn that when I play with anger, I will lose, and when I play with love, I will win. And I'm taking that as my own spiritual, psychedelic representation of my external, but have come to find after hearing your story months ago, there's been times where I'm like, am I playing with other people or not? Because I play Heroes of the Storm, which is a MOBA, and you can tell with the way people move around and response times, and I swear to God, I cannot be the only one in here that's just human. I mean, it really seems that way because if I'm scoring at the top of the boards all the time and people are just the responses, the moves, it feels like I am playing with computer. Mm-hmm. And they have a computer mode which plays not too differently, but people are new and whatnot, and you know sometimes they engage, sometimes they don't. But more times than not, I have been basically I'm forced to learn to play with love. Mm-hmm. And not with fear or anger. And the moment I start getting frustrated with it, it immediately goes. It's as if I'm consciously or actually unwinding the game in front of me because I decided to step into that feeling for this experience.
Yeah, I feel the same way. I feel the same way with the chess game. Like if I get angry, it's like I get quantum entangled with with a loss, you know, instead of getting quantum entangled with a win. It just doesn't work anymore. It's very strange.
A lot of multiplayer online role-playing games or live-action games actually do have sprite engines that have characters that are played by the computer. So you'd be totally right about that.
Well, he was saying, I think, when the game feels like he's playing just computer players, even though they're all supposed, or most of them are supposed to be human avatars. I think that's what he's saying.
Well, yeah, and I was agreeing with him, his observation, because they'll give unique names and user IDs to a lot of the computer players that they put in there, and they will even have them send chat messages and stuff, and they run AI, they run bots, and so if you talk to those players, they'll respond, but they're actually just an engine in the game running as an extension of the software. They populate the game like that to make it look cool so people always go in and play and there's always somebody there and it makes it more exciting.
Yeah, I can understand that part. I can understand that part, but the part I have a problem with is when the platform tries to represent the non-human players as humans, or it's obfuscating the sort of, you know, it should be very forthright and letting people know this is the exact percentage of bot characters and this is the exact percentage of humans. There should not be any
that's a problem with the software and UX department, because most people that write software honestly see the synthetic world as an extension of the natural world.
That's funny.
This piggybacks on this intuitive theory that I've had about the role of gaming, the interfacing with AI that's embedded within it, and how, depending on the person who's playing, depending on their level of awareness as well as susceptibility, it is also a programming machine. And so I've observed firsthand individuals who I was witnessing, and I was like, they're being programmed via frequency through this game that they're playing. And if you look at what happens with the human brain when it's observing or when it's watching, even like obviously a human is more vulnerable if they're just watching complacently TV, but the brainwave states do also change when somebody's gaming. And I think it makes people really, really like susceptible if they're not in that awareness, if they're not embodied. It's almost like frequency modulation. And it's really hard for me to describe it technically and scientifically because I'm not a scientist. But I am an observer, and I understand frequencies and I feel them. And it's just, it was a really big opening. It's not just these games are programming, you know, certain belief systems or desensitizing against violence as it's always been criticized, but there's something happening with some of these games that are modulating people's frequency if they're vulnerable to it.
Ashley, that's really interesting. I've noticed that a lot of people since 1993, when they switched the internet on, became completely different.
Just a little bit.
I've been watching people that I moved to California in '91, so from the East Coast, and when I got here, that was 5th grade, so I made some friends, and this one guy, George, I've known since then. And the other day, I had made a comment on a post. But before I track into that, there's a lot of organic factors that people are mostly under the control of, and I mean by the bulk of the population. They have a lot of microwave susceptibility. They eat a lot of products that are programmable. And all it takes is, pumping a certain modula through the air, and then all of a sudden that self-assembling nano waveguide is controlling their neurosynaptic rather than the organic body that ate all of that crap food. But so George,
I really agree with you, man. I wish I didn't, but I really do. Like, I've seen it firsthand, first witness of somebody who had this going on, and it was some of the most creepiest shit I've ever seen in my life. And that frequency was intelligence.
Well, the interesting thing is that if we are in alignment with anger, then we are susceptible to those frequencies because those are lower vibration frequencies. And through the law of attraction, of course, speaking from a spiritual sense, because that's my forte, is that you're going to attract what you are putting out in the vibratory capacity. And if AI is an extension of our intelligence, then that is what it is,
George actually had commented, he injected himself into this. It was terrible. So our good friend from high school, Baljeet, has had alcohol issues for a long time. And he's been in India at a detox place. And he's Indian. And George came in to my comment to Baljeet, which said, "Hey, Baljeet, since you're at an Ayurvedic detox center, ask them what their opinion is on kerosene and or turpentine and mercury, because you can break the neurosynaptic connection to the parasites that are causing the alcoholism." And George took it upon himself to call the fucking police department and report my comment to them and file a report. And I've known him for 25 years.
For what reason? Why would he do that?
That I was apparently giving dangerous medical advice. So I have to just laugh at this, because that's really, besides asking him privately if he actually did that and then blocking him.
Kerosene and turpentine? How would you utilize those substances?
Well, therein lies the problem. There are these very, 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 very powerful dragons that think that they have the ability to control what people say and don't say about anything that relates to them making money. But to make a long story short, turpentine is just an essential oil from the pine tree. And when you use essential oils internally the correct way, and I'm not saying just go and drink it, you will probably die. Or pretty close to it. You can use these things in a way that heals the body and helps it's a pine tree. Look how long they've been on this planet.
Right.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of success with turpentine.
I did it last year.
I remember that, yeah.
The time that I begrudgingly accepted a certain person that we were mutual friends with into my friendship circle after sitting and staring at the request for months and saying, I don't like this guy. I don't know why, but I don't like this guy.
I think it's really important to listen to those feelings when we don't know why. You know, we've been so trained and conditioned, right, to...
I do now. I was giving it the N+1 thing because it was related to you, and I was like, well, we'll see how this goes. Within a week, he had blocked me 3 times, and I was just like, I should have listened to what I was saying.
Listen to your
I wanted to touch Asha. Asha, that's how you pronounce your name?
Asha.
Your baby is beautiful, by the way. I wanted to touch on what you were saying, because like what you were speaking to is that kind of more multidimensional understanding. I don't necessarily call it the law of attraction. I have a really distaste for a lot of the spiritual New Age community, the idioms and axioms. With that said, there seems to be some really profound truth in it. And I kind of feel like it's that electromagnetic level. But so it's like, what it feels like with the AI is that, yeah, like seeing it as an extension of consciousness itself. And that's where I think that humans, we go into just black and white thinking. Like we forget that AI is also a part of the 10,000 things. Okay. And so we see it as this alien entity, which is only going to generate more challenges in our life. Just like if we were to look at our shadow family and the puppeteers and the puppets. You know, it is, for me at least, just my own discernment and my own observation, a part of the 10,000 things. And so we have it working on this resonance level, this much more higher kind of energetic spiritual plane. But then what Omar was saying earlier, we have it operating what we're seeing on that quote unquote third dimensional plane, which is interfacing with nanotechnology and how it's actually working in the physical. And so it's interesting. It's like, you know, when we look at what I call like breaking the entrapments, and that's something that has been like a huge thing for me as being, I have felt as a part.
Actually, can I interrupt you 1 second?
Yeah.
This thing is about to end. I'm going to re-up it, okay? And then you can hop back in, okay? The Zoom session is expiring. I forgot to pay attention to it, but...
Ashley, that guy Lieber that got a nano Lieber Wuhan, remind me to say about that. And by the way, Asha, I used to live in San Francisco. It looks like you guys might be in the inner Richmond or the inner Sunset.
Outer Sunset, yeah.
Outer Sunset. And it sounds like it just cut everyone off, and yes it did. Okay. What? Oh, yeah. Okay, new meeting. Invite. Copy Earl. There's that. There's that. Oops. I hadn't heard anything from Daniel. Wonder if Daniel was trying to join today or not. Okay, I think the link is out to everybody. I do believe. For round 2. You like this stuff? Yeah. Yeah, if any YouTube people want to join, I posted the link, the Zoom link in YouTube comments. Hopefully you guys can see that.
Hello.
Hello. Welcome back, Mr. Dr.
Welcome
Beans.
back. You know, it's funny. I actually went to massage therapy school in the Outer Sunset.
Yeah.
I recognized. I was just telling Gary. I actually went to massage therapy school in the Outer Sunset, and I kind of recognized by how big your place is, and the style of the walls and stuff, that you guys probably live somewhere between 30th and 36th.
We're on 44th and Judah.
Oh, you got the really good spot.
Yeah, we're a couple blocks from the beach, right by the park. It's really, really lovely.
It smells so good there. Is that pizza place and that Irish pub still down there?
Yeah.
The pizza
Indian
place
pizza?
on Noriega?
On Judah, the Indian pizza.
Oh, the Indian pizza place, Golden Gate Pizza?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's still there in Edinburgh.
That's still there. And then, no, the
Pittsburgh.
Pittsburgh.
The bar.
Okay.
Yeah, the bar still there.
Or Woods.
No, that is
When I went back in 2015, I was really, really upset that the creperie on Mission and 16th, in between Mission and Valencia, was gone. How long you guys been there?
6 years.
Okay. It's fantastic. It's amazing. Every single day that you go outside there, you'll like find something that you've never seen before.
Yep, I love your place, Eden. I need to come back and visit again. Plus, I need to come get master training, right?
Mm-hmm. Just did one.
Yeah.
You do Reiki?
Yeah.
She's my Reiki teacher.
Oh.
That's
I
why
wonder if you know my Reiki master that I went with there.
Maybe.
I need to. She does Usui Raiku. I
What's her
need to
name?
remember her name.
You don't know?
I don't remember it off the top of my
Dorian?
head. Huh?
Anna Dorian?
No. Krista Marie something? I don't think that's it. I'll have to look.
Oh, how sweet. Thank you.
Looks like we have another
Yay!
me. Who is this?
I don't know.
I definitely was super into what Aurora was mentioning before, and I would love to reunite with that conversation whenever it's good timing, you know?
Sure. What was the topic?
Looking at the multidimensional perspective layers of interfacing with AI.
Hmm.
So seeing it, more in the physical reality plane, nanotech and how that all works. And then seeing it also on, some people use the word quantum or, how we interact in this fabric of reality and higher levels. Both are definitely there. And I think that in order to disengage with that kind of malevolent aspect of AI that could be used inappropriately, that's that degrades and dishonors life, is learning how to see it through just an objective reality. Not to fear it, not to hate it, to see it as is.
Feels like we're moving from that third dimensionality that you were talking about, and I can feel this with the uprising that's going on right now, is that we're moving from like black, white, this or that. It's like my job, I lost my job, and like all of this stuff, and we're starting to move into like this collective space, this heart space, this interesting that my AI is reactive to my lower vibrational anger, right? And like we're starting to see this flux and this connectivity to all things instead of seeing AI separate from ourselves, that we are impactful and we are creators, and that is an extension of all of us. And what is rising in the collective is representative of the 40% AI that we are seeing.
Yeah. Perfectly stated.
Ashley, and Asha, there, the whole virus thing, right around March 10th, there was a guy arrested by the U.S. federales by the name of Charles M. Lieber. And if you look at ResearchGate.net, there are a lot of really, really, really weird papers that this guy has been authoring and researching and working on. It turns out that Lieber has been... He was arrested because he was en route to Wuhan to a bio-nanotechnological biowarfare laboratory that he was working with.
Is he the Harvard, or there's a professor from Harvard and other people that were working kind of undercover at Boston University?
He might be a Harvard emeritus. I'm not actually sure off the top of my head.
Can you spell his name real quick?
CharlesMLieber.
Wait, say the last one again.
Lieber like Jewish heritage. There's a paper I have on BitDrop where it talks about this nanopotentiated electro microvolt potential and injectable nano devices and stuff like that. So basically, he's been writing papers on like tons of stuff, but this specific tech, you can inject it into the body with a needle, and then you can have it self-assemble in the brain and then modulate the brain. As one example, but I have like 3 or 4 of his papers saved. It's really weird shit.
I mean, it just feels like, at this point, it's just advancement of technology. I mean, they've have so much tech that modulates the brain already. So now they're just continuing to refine their alchemical.
Exactly.
Yeah. So what does that mean for people like us? Like that's a practical question that I want to ask. Is how does this impact us? How do we discern this and observe this, and not from a place of reactivity?
I think that the most important thing to keep in mind is that some of the people that are working on this stuff are actually trying to improve the collective state of humanity by the work that they're doing. Just like my friend Tony works at the company that is developing and designing the corona test virus kits. He, 20 years ago, developed the rapid response immunoassay test that you get administered in an ambulance while you're en route to the emergency room. And it tests all the markers in your blood for things that you may have overdosed on or things that you may have been drugged with. And by the time you get to the ER, they pass that test result when you're getting wheeled in. And because of that test he designed, they know exactly how to treat you and what to give you if there's a known antidote. So he's been working to develop a coronavirus test kit at his work, which is a biopharmacogenomics laboratory in Sunnyvale or Milpitas. And the CDC has been having them work like twice as long as they would normally work. And they've been shipping the test kits for the last 17 days. But so the point is, there are people that are working for these companies and who are doing really good things, or at least trying to do really good things, and not all the people working on these things that we read as sinister tech are actually doing bad things. Some of it just sounds really fucking strange. And then some of it is really strange. And then some of it is really evil. But if it's really evil, you probably won't hear about it. even if you dig, because the information is cloistered and censored.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's a really, really important point that you're making. And oftentimes what we don't realize, I remember meeting the VP of Monsanto and a couple of his people who work there. They're just people, just human beings, you know? And so, you know, a lot of the times people's intention is not, you know, malicious. With that being said, however, you know, there's been disasters that have happened, and a lot of people have been hurt because of people's blindness. So, and ignorance. So a lot of times what we're talking about is we're talking about ignorant people, you know, who work at these companies, who are creating this technology, who are creating, you know, the missiles and everything else with it. It's a state of human ignorance. You know, it's a state of separation. Really, so it is dangerous, really I think, in a lot of ways. But it's
really tricky to go from objectivity to emotional judgment and bias, though. And that's where most people screw up. And but to re-encapsulate and reinforce something you just said, they are just people. In 2000, and that's part of human nature. In 2006, I was inside the Getty's mansion, on top of, I forget the name of the neighborhood. Maybe, Aisha, you can remind me. Where's the place where Robin Williams used to live before he passed? That big hill with all the huge houses?
I don't know the name of that place. I did visit his house. Maybe Robbie knows.
I don't know.
But anyway, that neighborhood. So I'm standing in next to Gordon.
Twin Peaks?
No, it'll come to me eventually. But I was standing next to Gordon Getty, in his mansion, the Getty of Getty Museums, you know, that Getty, and there's a 40-foot red velvet chair in one room with a 40-foot back. There's servants coming out of the wall, out of separate kitchens, with doors that are meshed into it's a weird house. Mm. And he's sitting there, and we're talking, and this servant comes up, and him and this lady and I are talking about breast cancer, because it was a breast cancer benefit. And this servant comes up to him with a silver platter and has a can of Diet Coke on it. Puts the platter out, and Gordon says thank you, and he takes the can of Diet Coke off the platter, cracks the can open, and drinks the motherfucker out of the can while we're sitting there talking. They're just people. He has billions, and I don't even know how much that guy is worth, but it's important to
humanize, to humanize
the perception.
And also, as equally important as humanization, is also accountability. So when we see people in these concentrations of power that are using that power out of ignorance and could potentially harm a lot of people, that's where we still can be in that humanization. Just because we're holding people accountable doesn't mean we just deem you as evil and we're just going to, have capital punishment. But this is a really, really interesting topic. This is one that I find is this is the warrior's path, because we don't dehumanize.
I have something to add.
If we want to shift the paradigm, we have to create and probably also hold some people accountable.
Yeah, Bill Gates would do well to get some accountability training, perhaps.
Yeah, so would Bezos, right?
You guys know of Johnson & Johnson, right? Giant company.
Yep.
Yeah.
The kid of Johnson & Johnson, you can look this up. He made a documentary. I forget what it's called, but if you just look up Johnson & Johnson kid documentary, you'll find it. But he, at some point when he was, he's a teenager, probably low 20s, early 20s, and he was concerned about the inequality that he saw in his own family. And he made a documentary where he would go and he would talk to his family members about this subject, and it's very interesting because they don't want to tell him anything, but they at the same time they're not comfortable with withholding either. It's very fascinating to watch how they react to him. And one of the things that kind of hit me with regards to the wealth inequality thing is that, number one, you're more in prison if you have a bunch of money than if you're walking on the street with nothing. You're much more in prison. And number two, your cellmates are your family members. Like, say, for instance, you're the head of Johnson & Johnson. You have a whole bunch of people that are dependent on you doing things correctly in order for their amount of money to stay, for their flow to stay going. So you're imprisoned by each one of those underlings who's making less than you, but they're fully dependent on you to make sure their flow keeps going. So it's not like, oh, I have all this money so I can do anything. No, you're completely in jail because of that. And if you're not happy because of the wealth, then it's not even there's not even a perk to that jail.
Hey everybody, this is my friend Phaedra. She's in Indonesia, and she's a really, really cool person. I invited her in.
Hi Phaedra, welcome.
Hi, Phaedra.
Hi guys, this is my first time, so I don't know how this works, and I'm really confused how this works. But
it's pretty simple. You just come on and listen to everybody else, and if you like to jump in here and there and share your thoughts, that's fine. It's very laid back.
okay,
approach. Yeah.
I just don't know what to do. Yeah.
The only thing and she's Finnish, so there's always music playing. The only thing I can think of is turn the music off so it doesn't confuse people.
Right. Yeah.
Or you can hit mute and listen to your music if that's your heart's
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. That worked.
Like I said, I'm newcomer. I have no fucking idea what to do, but I'm learning.
So each
I'm sorry,
week
I come out from the house for 3 weeks, so yeah, that's my best. But hello.
Fine. Each week we talk on Sunday at 10 a.m. and Gary's been doing this for, I think, since December we put it together. It was his idea, and we just all kind of jumped in. Some of us know each other from before, but there's new people all the time, so here you are.
Mm-hmm.
It's been going a good 4 months at least. I think it was in November when we started, wasn't it? We started in Fresno. We weren't here yet. It was October, I think. And we're working on March. We're at the end of March, so we're probably a good half year in, I think. October, November. Yeah, we're a good half year in. It's been very successful, I think.
We've been
Harry,
talking
I want to
about...
ask you a question.
Mm-hmm.
I want to ask you a question.
Right.
Do you feel that we could be wealthy without being imprisoned?
Ashley, hang on just a sec. Phaedra, we've been talking about AI and the virus stuff and consciousness and things like that. Okay, I'm done.
I'd like to ask Aurora to clarify what you mean by wealth, because there are many perspectives that one can have on wealth outside of strictly one facet, which is monetary.
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely specifically speaking to the current monetary system.
What could you say the question?
That we exchange notes as well as digital currency.
You're asking if
dollar bills.
You're asking me if I think you can have lots of fiat currency without being imprisoned by it.
Yeah.
I don't think so.
That's a
because
big
it's
because we all dealing with that, if I can say anything. I don't know how this goes, if I can talk or not, but yeah, that's what we all go through. I'm a mother as well, and the economical system is all of us, but trust me, while it's hitting all of us, we're all going to be fine too. I'm broke as fuck, so yeah, we're all scared, but that's gonna have a new system, I think. It has to.
a new system.
Yeah, it has to. One system goes down and new one will arise, you know.
I think it's
I've
difficult.
been doing this for a long time with all kind of systems, and this one is funny.
Well, this one's only been going since 1918 or whenever they changed everything into corporations. It's not like this has been going on for a long time, and it breaks to the extent of the interest bearing component, which represents non-real wealth in the system, which means it has to expand out till it hits the footprint of the planet. We already hit that footprint, and it's already at. They have to keep injecting, fake money into the system to try to help the things survive, but it doesn't work. It just stops working. It's what Omar was talking about before, the large numbers or the small numbers. The quantum computers can't even handle it at a certain point because it's the numbers have gone too far.
Yeah, that's the point. But I come from Finland originally, but I didn't live there for 20 years. So I basically been in Asia for 10 years. So places like Asia, like Indonesia, it's gonna hit hard. So as you can understand of those kind of questions of economy and stuff like that, then Finland is much more better prepared than Indonesia. Like here it's gonna hit hard.
Gary, they came up with the concept of modern interest in about 1618 in England as a way to collect 90% of the peasants' or the serfs' workings. But the concept of interest itself is as old as Jesus, actually. They've been doing that literally since they wrote the Torah.
I know that. And I know that usury is outlawed in some religions as well. And I know why it's outlawed. I know like this has been an ongoing problem, and I know that there are ways to sort of tweak it to make it look like it's not an Ouroboros, but it is an Ouroboros. Like, either the system is sort of able to sustain to some extent, or it has to blow up. And this system that we're in is the latter. It's not the former. And that's why it's blowing up.
Yeah.
My question for you is, what would be the difference between interfacing with the monetary system, like the way we were talking about interfacing with AI earlier? Let's say that there is this AI that was created, and maybe not always from the best intentions, but we have identified that we can learn how to interact, which means keeping ourselves in check, right? Mm-hmm. Is it possible that it could be the same with the current monetary structure until something shifts? The reason why I ask this is that it's always felt a little tricky for a lot of us, most of us, is that we do not want to participate in this black magic system. And yet at the same time, we understand that this is a part of the game in which we have incarnated into. It's another interesting obstacle, so to speak. Like, most of us do not want to put petroleum into our gas tanks, but we're still continuing to. It's just like
most people see the monetary system as their identity.
Well, yeah,
and when you say most people, you're talking about a very small percentage of people who see differently, which is most people being us types. Right?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
For sure.
It's an important distinction.
I think the Occam's razor is still correct when you're looking at logical setups, and I go reduction. I reduce usually because you can, not for the only reason that you can. And so if you're looking at what economics actually is, it's my simplest way to explain it. I've said this before, but it's a way of, it's just credit system. It's only social credit. It's not ever been really anything other than that, right? It's do I have permission to do this action that I wish to do? Like, I would like to have a car. Okay, does the whole permit me to have a car based on all the things, that should be considered? Like, is he able to drive a car? Do his eyes work correctly? And then you have to add in the morality thing at some, is he virtuous? Is this person trustworthy? Is he going to be a menace on the streets, or is he going to be relatively following the law? All of those things are what the money system is trying to do. Like, people with lots of money are supposed to be good with managing assets, right? Like, all of these sort of components are supposed to be represented by the money system, but as we see, this system is upside down. So the people at the top are the least equipped and the least able, and they are lacking in neurons, and they are fully in bed with, what we would call corruption. And you can see that the thing has been turned upside down. It's very simple to see. Just ask yourself any question like, oh, I want to go to the store and get like a gallon of milk. The permission slip says you either can do it or you can't. If you don't have the permission slip, then you're denied access to that gallon of milk. But logically speaking, everybody should be able to get milk, or everybody should be able to get bread if there's enough, if you're not in like a false scarcity system, which we are in.
The reason why this feels unsustainable to me is based on that concept that you're talking about, Gary, which is that money is, it feels like AI in the way that it is very linear. It's a number, right? It's like numbers in a system. It's, I have this quantity of I. And the things that I am able to attain are in that linear fashion. So I've got these numbers that are backing me. And so then we've become very distant from our humanity. We've become very distant from what something's inherent value is, like food is nourishment. When you think about the trade aspect, how I could give you something like in exchange that is from a heart resonance, as opposed to like how do we quantify something's inherent value? Like if I'm giving energy work, like I do, I have been telling my clients I stopped asking for money for my sessions. They can give that to me if they feel called, but how can I define my session as worth $120, $500, what have you, when someone who makes more money, that could feel like $1 to them. It has less value to someone who makes more money. They could just give that away, right? Someone who has $1, they have to save up 100 times to meet that session. So it doesn't make sense. And it's not a logical system at all. Because it's not based upon how much I make is how much I give, or that I have an opportunity to feel into this with my sentience as far as what I'd like to give at a later time, a little bit more of a quantum way. There's no affordability for any of that conversation to be had where we say, no, this is it, and you're a number, and if you can't afford that gallon of milk, which is $6 here or $3 there, then too bad for you. And I think that's where we're starting to have this conversation now. And we're seeing that, like, without having jobs, how are we going to make those ends meet? How are we going to ask for milk from our neighbor and give them what instead? Right?
At its core, money. I've been holding this for like 4 minutes now. I got to spit it out.
Go ahead, Omar.
At its core, money is a second order informatic or information system that's overlaid, and it represents the transfer of energy. And by second order, I mean it's an abstraction, and it has been surrogated into the primary means that humans exchange energy with each other. Mm-hmm. The danger is with what Gary was saying, where it becomes convoluted and changed around and manipulated. But also, as Asha was saying, the real value is when people learn how to interact on a humanistic level from the core aspect of self and from one's work. And that kind of exchange is way, obviously, the correct and organic way to do it. And additionally, if you've read the way that fractional reserve banking works, within about halfway through the 20 pages of the 40-page workbook from the Fed, you'll quickly be like, dude, you're fucking kidding me, right? I'm just going to go fucking find something that's very pleasurable and then go fuck off and take a nap. Because I can't believe this shit. I can't believe this shit, man. This is how it works? Wow. And Ashley, I think I've pretty much dragged you head face into this book before. You read it, right?
I didn't read all of it, but I've read enough.
You read enough to get to that point where you're like, you're kidding, right?
So in essence, what we're looking at is that we have commodified ourselves. We have commodified ourselves, and that money system and the way that it interacts is a reflection of cultural narcissism, I think, in a lot of ways, where it's the I, me. And like you said earlier, Omar, it's the identification, and just another one of those beautiful examples of humans and their attachment and their fear of impermanence.
It's an abstraction from self. Exactly. The commodity is the abstraction from self. You're not a product, but that's how most people see themselves.
Yeah.
It's also a product of our external reality. So I think a lot of people want to hold on to things and stuff to say, this is who I am. And now that everyone, or a lot of people, are losing their jobs and they're losing one aspect of their identity, then they're having to go inward and navigate who they are internally, as opposed to this external commodification aspect of who they are.
Really?
I think that part of me broke when I got jumped at 4th and Market walking to work at 4:30 in the morning, and I couldn't lift a trash bag and moved home and didn't have an income for 7 years. I very quickly learned patience and humility to levels that I did not previously have before. And I was literally, if I wanted to drink a beer, I would have to find quarters in the couch or go down to the corner and beg people for change. And, that $2.35 was hard won over a period of several hours. And that really taught me the value of interaction and not to just have something to have had it. Because before I was making $600 an hour. That's ridiculous. What the fuck was I going to do with that?
You were making what?
That's interesting, though, that you can have one day where you're making $600 an hour and another day where you're having that happen. And that this just speaks to the intangibility of something that we're clinging to so fully.
Exactly. But so the point I was getting to was what we were all talking about before, which is that when people start to actually navigate, so my perspective is borked because I got to experience both extremes. But when people are beginning to navigate this, we're going to, for the next several years at least, as people go through this experience in different levels for themselves, I think we're going to see a lot of people just questioning everything and being very lost. And a lot of people finding themselves at the same time in ways they never have before. And a big part of the internet that really confuses people, I think, is the tracking that there's a constant state or a constant set state that people are presupposed to be in when they use the internet. There's a component of AI with that. There's a component of social media with that. There's a component of the news with that. There's a component of the way technology is being levied with the laws and stuff. There's a lot of different things going on there. But bottom line is, it's going to be very interesting to see what kind of platforms emerge.
Bye, Eden. Thanks for joining.
Like the social network thing that I've been putting together, that is not censored and is not AI driven and is organic and you can express yourself there. And other types of platforms like that will be emerging, and all the micro networks are going to really be big tools. And then, big tools in the next few years as people are reemerging into themselves. And this whole process hopefully evolves in an organic sense versus how it's... And I have no perception of how much shit I just said. So should I stop? I was almost done.
I think that's a positive forecast and something that we can launch from. A lot of people, we get to choose to...
I know Phaedra was trying to say something. I didn't hear what you said.
Yeah, I'm a newcomer. You should explain me how it works because I don't know.
Just
So
yell and
one person
talk over your neighbor, chomp on his toes, and that's how we do it here. I'm kidding.
One person talks, and generally, if you can hold your thought long enough, you can talk. I think that's the idea.
So that's how the...
You can do the hand raising thing as well if you feel comfortable with it.
I don't know.
If I see somebody going like this, I'm going to stop trying to talk. So, yeah.
That's it? So, can you see my picture?
Yes.
We can see you from about here and up.
Okay. I'm trying. Okay. I'm just learning this, okay?
Smokey's getting into it. She's like checking you guys all out. Oh, now she's about to leave.
I just wanted you guys don't be so serious about it. Like, I'm serious too, man. Like, I've been in Asia for 10 years and before that in Soviet Union. So, it's not that bad. It's not. It's bad here, but not there. I want to actually move to Finland back, but all of this, I don't know. I'm trying to get to your conversation, but it's kind of like lagging, so I don't know anymore if I'm talking the right system anymore or not.
You're current. There's no lag coming from your end.
Yeah. Just saying that everybody should...
So what's it like there? Because you say
really
it's
bad, to be honest. Yeah, the government is lying a lot, so our debt percentage is 66%. So with the Italy of Southeast Asia.
66%?
Yeah.
So 66% of the people that contract the virus are dying, you're saying?
In Bali, yeah. Because they don't test people, so it's bullshit, isn't it?
And how many have gotten it? Do you know?
Huh?
How many have gotten it in your country?
It's gone up to 1,000 something, but most of them are in Java. So 5 in Bali, but 2 died or something like that. So it's boosted because they don't test it.
1,000 something. Wow.
Yeah, but that's the point that they don't test it, so our percent is huge.
Do you think they're lying about the percent?
Hmm?
You think it's being misrepresented, or do you think it's less or more?
I think that I'm 3 weeks already in quarantine. That's why I look like shit.
You're 3 weeks quarantine?
I think
yeah.
We're in Asia. Like, seriously. It's fourth most populated country in the world, Indonesia.
Yeah. You guys, we're coming to the end of this thing. I think I'm going to wrap it up. The Zoom's going to shut off. So if anyone has any closing thoughts or remarks, you have about 1.5 minutes to do it.
Well, Gary,
thank you.
I actually think that it's going to be okay. I've got a good feeling.
Yeah. Okay, Ben's here. We got to keep going now.
Okay. Hey, it's your brother. Yay! It's the first time he came in.
I did not think Ben was ever going to show up on any social anything. So this will be like the first time Ben has shared his thoughts like with the social anything ever in all of life. If he can get his voice to work.
Well, he's got to tap the screen and hit the unmute mic button in the top right.
Hit the unmute mic button, Ben. You have about 50 seconds to do it. But I will reload. I will reload the show if Ben can come on and share his thoughts.
Well, Gary, it works the same for everybody, but I know you're teasing him.
Yeah.
I would do the same thing to my sister.
He says I don't have my camera plugged in yet. Ben, if you can hear us, I'm gonna reload it, and I'll share the link again with you via Messenger. And if you can figure your audio out, then we'll chat. Okay? So I will reload this in a couple minutes. I want to hear from Ben.
Me too.
Bye. I like you.
See you on the other side. Okay.
Kitty. People be getting so crazy. Like the evidence that we're in a complete insane asylum is finally apparent.
Yeah.
Nobody's hiding behind their suits and ties anymore.
Yep. This is true. Okay.
Come here, cutie.
Get one out to Ben.
Come here. Yeah. Okay. You're not even washing your feet. It's okay.
Right. I think I've sent all the proper links. So. I need a shower. I'm grungy.
I thought you showered this morning.
Did not.
Oh. You nasty.
Nasty, nasty. Do we still have any YouTube peoples around? Yep, still got 8. Susie said the Fed just made it unnecessary for banks to hold any reserves against loans.
Oh, shit.
What, you mean so they don't have to hold 10% like they've been?
The measly amount.
The final 10% has been slashed.
Wow.
It's 100% fake now, folks.
Crumble, let it crumble.
It's 1,000% fake. We don't even hold 10%. Omar, did you hear that?
What?
Susie said on YouTube that, and I don't know the truth of this, but she said the Fed just made it unnecessary for banks to hold any reserves against loans, which means that 10%, that 10% holding, you know, that was the last little bit of something.
Oh, fuck. That's not... okay, let me say something about that. Is that Susie Perone, by the way?
Susie McCormick.
Oh.
Hey, Mike.
Okay, so that 10% was the mathematical expansion quote. That was the 1 over the x. So without that... Oh, boy. Oh my God.
Wait, are we really going to have Armageddon now? So is that your interpretation?
No, I would need to look at let me, okay, so just talk this out, cause that's like, holy, if you put in $1 into the system, they expand against that 10% reserve currency, and they make $100,000 out of that $1, but digitally, synthetically.
Not 100,000.
So
they would make $100 to your 10 that you put in, essentially.
No, it's more than that. There's 10 orders of expansion on every dollar put in, and they have to hold a 10% reserve on every dollar. On every So on every transaction, they have to hold 10%, so that gives them 90% to play with and expand outward. But at the end, it's divide 10 times in the order of the series, and then you end up with 1 to 99. And then if you divide one more time, you end up with error divide by 0. So without the 10% thing that holds that, there is no mathematical formula anymore in tangible currency, in a tangible currency. So what that means and indicates to me is that they're literally moving away from a tangible physical currency, and they're going all digital, and the Fed is about to drop blockchain because that is a purely synthetic currency, and there is no need to have a reserve, and it can expand infinitely outwards into however much you wants to. But it's really, really important to dictate that while the economy expands outwards in numbers, it also expands outwards in physical goods, services, jobs, and infrastructure, gas stations, churches, hospitals, schools, whatever. So when people are worried that there's going to be, they're going to devalue the money supply or whatever, they're not taking account into that there are all these people who have all these buildings and stuff and physical, tangible assets in the world. So that's not really an issue. What's most interesting, though, about this is that it allows infinite outward expansion fiscally with the numbers, but the physical stuff will always be there to have value backed against it. And I mean assets, not money. So what's weird, though, is that we're going to see a world now. If I'm right, this makes a lot more sense with my. I think they're doing accounting thing with this virus to establish a baseline minimum of where the infrastructure meets the tangible or meets the intangible financials, and they're just trying to calibrate the system to move into blockchain because they have to start it off somewhere, and they can't just go, hey, let's start off this computer tracking blockchain system with an unknown value of money in the system. They have to take into account where the system is to start it off at a solid baseline for it to work correctly and not have hyperinflation in local markets or hyperdeflation in other local markets. So they're measuring. They're in measurement mode. They put the global economy into debug mode, and they want to see how much, just to recap from last week, how much of a draw of electricity there is on the system before they wire the circuit breakers in the secondary system, which are the consumers, to the mains, which is the generator, because they want to make sure that there's enough power in the mains, which is going to be the money thing, and how much is available to start with to power the demands of the circuit breakers that they're plugging in, which are us. So I'm drawing a weird analogy because it's relatable probably to a lot of people, because you can't plug in 20,000 60-watt light bulbs if you're only generating 200 watts at the generator. So they need to make sure that there's enough power for all the light bulbs at the generator station, and that value is assigned correctly, i.e. they installed the correct generator, which is really the money supply. So when they have the right amount in the money supply for the baseline quotient to sustain life across planet Earth, they will have that baseline value and the crypto will go online. And at that point, we're going to, cash will still have some value for a time until it's all traded in and deposited. But from there on out, we're going to be using near-field communications devices like tapping a phone on things to pay. Mm-hmm. And we're going to be getting paid digitally, and we're not going to be getting paid in checks. Direct deposit will still be a thing, but the way the money is kept track of on a management level in the bank is going to be completely different because these new systems will have gone online.
Yes, that's all true. But can you open your eyes? Exactly.
That was hard to track, and I had to remove all the stimulation just to it's like writing. You know, you're writing, you're the only one there.
Yeah,
I was writing.
I understand.
But I was speaking.
Flow. It's the flow. I know. I love you.
I want to take a moment and welcome Ben. This is oldest brother Ben, oldest one of the family. Ben, this is Omar and Phaedra's. Where are you, Phaedra? You're in.
Hey, Ben.
Where are you? I forget.
Hi.
Hi, Ben. Sorry, I don't usually run my mouth for that long at once. I just really wanted to get that all out.
That's totally fine.
It was good, man.
I think Ashley's going to rejoin us in a minute, but.
So Ben, where are you?
Same place, same state Gary used to be, California, Central California, up in the foothills.
Oh,
Fresno.
Ashley, this is my oldest brother, Ben. Ben, this is Ashley. Ashley, where are you?
Ben.
Pennsylvania?
Oh.
I forget what you
I'm
said.
in Pennsylvania right now.
Pennsylvania, yeah.
Wait a minute. Who's who? My name is Petra. I'm from Finland, but I live in Bali.
Bali.
Who are you?
Ben is my brother. He's the oldest brother.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think Ben has been following all of this stuff in a more quiet fashion than I have, at least at the very minimum, but he's aware of a lot of it. So, Ben, if you'd like to share your thoughts.
I'm crazy. That's why I'm here, because I'm fucking crazy. I talk with experience and shit. No worries.
We're all crazy. Maybe Aurora's going to hop on too. I don't know. What do you think, Ben? What do you think about the current situation?
It's definitely unprecedented for what we're used to, at least in this lifetime. I guess first, I'll just say that I'm generally not like I heard Gary said before the first time I just got on. I wasn't really intending to get on here to speak or anything, but I generally will just watch and take stuff in. I'm not like a social media person. I don't really use that stuff. I don't do videos of myself. I don't talk online like Gary does. It's just not something I feel that is part of my journey to do in this life. But I guess at this point, I'm always open to different things. So being that I got on and Gary was wanting me to come on, it sounded like, so I just felt like, well, maybe it's supposed to happen for right now. I guess a good thing to do would be just to establish because I don't really know what all of your bigger perspectives is on life, why we're here, what existence is, what reality is. I don't really know you guys. I don't know what Gary is, but we honestly talk a whole lot, and I don't know how lined up perspectives are. That's going to help. Otherwise, we're just going to be on saying stuff, and I don't know if you guys would even know. You know what I mean? So we kind of have a background to go off.
Yeah. My crowd is fairly similar to me. I think we're a pretty niche group. There's 2,300 subscribers that kind of follow me around, and I think mainly we're just open. Whatever the opposite of having your consciousness in a bunch of boxes, we're trying to be something other than that. So it's a very open forum. There are different levels of people even within the forum, but for the most part, we are quite aware compared to your average Joe walking down the street.
I figured that, but there's within that awareness, the people that are in the higher level awareness in the sense of beyond the average person walking around the street, there's still a lot of levels within that.
Right.
Of the
right.
level of it's different.
Yeah.
People believe this, people believe that. There's a whole.
Why do you think that you're better than them? What is the level for you?
I guess just maybe you guys just tell me what you guys think of the current situation. Of maybe it'd be an easier way, and then I can kind of see where you're at, and then I can.
In my system, basically, I've been living with we call it the orang pintar in here. It's translated, it's smart people. So they live in nowhere, basically. You have to find them, which is basically impossible. I've been living with them for years in random places in Indonesia, in woods and stuff like that. So it really depends on what you call that is high level or what, because I am there. But for me, it's funny if somebody in here, for example, who could, I do yoga on high level kind of thing, you know? So which one is for you high level?
You're asking what do I consider high level?
Yeah.
With regards to what specifically?
Hi, Aurora. Just wanted to say hello to Aurora. She's joining us. We have two Auroras in here. We have the Ashley and we have the FRL Aurora.
And what high level?
I don't know. I don't mean high level in the sense of like hierarchical. It's kind of it's not really a term I like very much because it implies someone's higher than someone else, which automatically people think, oh, you're saying you're better than me. You're saying you know more than me. And that's not the idea that I'm trying to put forth with regards to that. It's just words are so limiting and it's hard to find ones that convey what I feel inside in a way that I feel is accurate and doesn't have a lot of baggage that people automatically assume the words that you say mean to them. Different people each know their baseline, like, meaning to words. Each person has their own kind of frequency to it where they, based on their experiences, they have their own idea of what those words mean and point to. And not everyone will talk about what the word means. The person will just automatically assume, oh, they're saying this without actually communicating that. I'm not saying that you're doing that. I'm kind of speaking.
Yeah, but you still didn't answer to me. What is it for you? Because all of us, you're right. All of us have that exactly like that. But what is it for you?
So, Ben, I'm a completely nonlinear thinker, but I like to keep my feet in the linear pool as well for perspective.
What?
If that helps.
Ben, I think if I can clarify a little bit, I know that I attract a certain type of persona to this channel, and what it is for me is I always consider everything. So the Catholic, woman thumbing through her rosary versus the capitalist billionaire, trying to figure out where to shoot his rockets versus me, who I just don't really attach any labels to myself versus, literally anything inside of me, all of those are fine in there. They all talk to each other and interact, and it's a big old party, And then there are some people that have certain preferences, and I kind of note those as I go through. But I try to look at this particular group as a wide of a lens as possible without having people basically like arguing with each other. So basically anything, as long as you're being courteous and respectful.
I love everyone. I'm just asking questions.
Mm-hmm.
I'm new. Okay?
Well, I guess, is it Phaedra? Is that what your name is?
Phaedra, yeah.
Phaedra? I guess I'm not quite understanding what you're wanting me to explain with regards to the higher level thing.
What? Sorry, I didn't hear.
Yeah. It doesn't matter, Ben. It doesn't matter. It's just like, we know what you're talking about. There's a sort of spiritual differentiation between people, but I personally don't care. Like, we have Aurora, who's a self-proclaimed walk-in, she's rainbow frequency coming in to help the planet. And then we have Omar, who, he knows about super soldiers doing missions in South Africa, and he ties all this stuff in to somehow be able to talk to us. We have Ashley.
That's what I'm doing, so
we have so many different people here.
Fucking stupid person. I just want to know what's going on because I'm doing a lot here as well.
Yeah, I think just to say we're all multidimensional, and we have to just be willing to accept that other people are the way they are, and wherever we can mesh, we have a conversation point at that point.
Gary, Phaedra is a really talented artist and graphic designer, and used to run a commune.
Oh yeah.
Nice. She works with my friend Diana that I've known for the last decade. They collaborated on this thing called the Kupu Kupu Art Space in Indonesia, and it was a market and a number of other things. So yeah, she does a lot of interesting things.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Interesting.
And that's just like this much of it. She's very busy.
I love all of you. I'm just nervous because I'm new in here. I don't know how this thing works, okay? I just want to know all of you. Okay, and I'm scared because I don't let many people into my family.
That makes sense. That's why I hide inside most of the time. It's easier.
Yeah.
Aurora, maybe you can share a little bit and find a topic for us to contemplate.
Well, hello, thank you so much. And I'm just literally outside. I'm doing a little bit of my daily stretching, my pre-lasagna activities. So I'm like a big advocate for basically decolonizing our way of living, walking, and interacting with each other. When I say decolonizing, we've all been socially acculturated to do what is polite, and to sit like a lady or sit like a gentleman and be blah, blah, blah when you are, in front of other people. And I'm like, no. We need to drop all of that domestication. And I'm encouraging everyone literally to go wild. So this means everything from if you feel like you need to stretch to do that, or if you want to eat a banana during the broadcast to do that, we're changing our way of interfacing, and also interfacing with time. And this is just like what is going on with quarantine. Okay, so it used to be that if you stayed home and followed your own schedule, that was to be considered even a bit indulgent, right? You were supposed to wake up at 7 a.m. and go to your job and then do all the things that you're supposed to do and then come home at 5 p.m. And there's that regimentation that is part of the domestication of the human spirit. And I've been having really intense, I would say, ascension experiences since October of last year. Being really disconnected from time and really flowing from moment to moment. Even as an artist, I'm usually setting my own schedule, but I would definitely lose touch of things and projects and, commitments and things like that. And I would just ask for people to understand and apologize on that. And I'm finding because it was so hard to straddle both worlds of having to do the worlds of social expectation and doing things on a schedule. And then this other world that's much more, enough. Natural and flowing and moment to moment and kind of innovative, the way that you jazz when you jazz as a musician. And so now that everybody has to be home, most people are home, most people are cut off from their scheduling and also their routines of taking children to work, taking children to daycare, all the things that you do at a time, to the point that I think some people are feeling a little bit at sea, a little bit unmoored. But we need this type of unmooring because we are changing on a genetic level that changes our relationship to time. So imagine if you were a domesticated horse and every day you get up and they make you put on your saddle and they make you walk somebody around and then you get to take off your saddle at the end of the day. That's not how a wild horse does its thing. And we're supposed to be this transformation, this ascension, this planetary transformation. It's about us becoming our true selves again, becoming wild humans. If you're a wild human, you don't wake up at 7 a.m. with your alarm clock. You can sleep in the sleep pattern that's comfortable to you, and then you do the activities you want to do during the day. So I think this is not that totalitarianism is good in any way. I'm not putting the shine on that. but I always see that there's like this divine higher purpose. Hey, enough to what is going on. That's really enough. Stop. Can't be out here if you're going to be loud.
And that is, Aurora, that is happening right now, whether people are aware of it or not. And it's something I've been watching and tracking for myself for the last decade or so, as it's been like I lost track of time in 2009, and it's been really, really weird. I've been basically, like you said, straddling worlds, and it's a hell of a lot to integrate, and for a long time you don't feel like anything makes sense, and you're like, which one do I pick? And then you Joe hyper one way, hyper the other way, and you eventually find this balance point where you're able to do things like sleep for 4 hours in the middle of the day if you feel called to do that, and just tell everybody you're busy and disappear. But that's the process we're undergoing right now as a planet, and it's really, really important that you brought that up, and I'm really happy to hear that. I'm not the only one seeing it.
Yeah. Do you guys remember this episode of the new X-Files that came out within the past 2 or 3 years or so? And it was about a guy who was a reptilian, but one day he caught humanness, and he wakes up and he's like, I gotta get a job. And he goes and gets a job at like Verizon, cell phones. And he's like, I gotta go to work. Like it's making fun of us.
What's your name? I don't know.
It's X-Files. It's the new one,
No,
and I'm sorry, I don't watch a
lot
lot of TV, but it was like within the past couple of years.
An alien who is reptile, and I know the truth about that. So why are you talking about movies?
I'm talking about the X-Files as a pop cultural reference, not trying to offend you in any way or cast aspersions on anybody in any way. I'm using it as.
Have you actually seen one or no?
Say it again?
Have you actually seen one or no? Reptilian.
An alien? I am an extraterrestrial walking. I look in the mirror, but I am not a type of extraterrestrial that are the technology using space races that are running rampant here on Earth. It's actually literally why I'm here as a non-technology using ET to give the compliment to the crapola that's being played. Like, I actually play good music.
Well, I have, and I am both, so it's not funny. And they are real, and I'm real too. And it's kind of I don't know how to say about this, but it's not something to joke about. They tried to kill me, so it's not kind of funny.
Do you feel that I'm joking about this right now?
Kind of, because
I'm not.
They're not positive, you know?
No, Aurora has always maintained the same position with her origins and whatnot. She's never made light of that, as far as I know.
No, I'm totally serious in everything that I say.
Additionally, humor is also a good thing, and we don't need to get too uptight.
Phaedra, what was that?
What?
Your audio was funny. What was the last thing you said?
Oh, she's beautiful. It's just the point that I actually have met people who are from, I don't know, you call them, I don't know, aliens or whatever.
Are you saying more of like negatively oriented, self-proclaimed aliens that would attack you energetically? Is that what you're talking about?
No, I'm talking about shit that they actually do that and they try to kill me. So it's not something. It's traumatizing.
I don't think anyone's joking about this, Phaedra. I've myself dealt with energy attacks. I know Omar has. I know Andrea has. I'm sure Aurora has, and I'm sure literally everyone in here has dealt with energetic attacks. It's not like that.
Not in this level, I think.
Well, we're not having a competition.
Gary.
Hey,
no,
Susie.
it's not competition, but people die in Indonesia because of this.
We need to. Phaedra, could you turn your audio off? Or Susie, maybe? Is your audio on?
I've myself dealt with energy attacks. I know Omar has. I know Andrea has. I'm sure
Maybe
Aurora
it's
has.
me. Let me make sure it's not me. Could be me. Okay. I turned mine off. It's not me.
We're not having areas.
You wanna hear it all like
Phaedra, turn off your mic for just a second.
what?
Gary,
Gary,
you can mute her mic. I wanted to just thank you, Aurora, for what you said, that this moment is also a really amazing opportunity. And I like the word choice of decolonization, because that's exactly what's happening. And if we can tap into it, and Omar, you said it too, like there's something so powerful here. There's so much medicine and just so much potential in this moment. And it's easy to continue to loop within those, patterns of feeling like we're a victim to it all. But there's so much here.
Susie,
I don't know if you all been noticing in meditation, like meditations and like just moving energy through the body has, like, for me at least, increased exponentially. And, I'm just like, wow.
Did you guys see Laura's last thing? She had like orbs just floating all over her screen the entire time. It was crazy. The whole thing is like more charged up now. It's very much. Susie, welcome. I wanted to say hello. Can you hear us okay?
I can hear you. Can you hear me, Gary?
Yeah. Where are you from, Susie?
I'm in Dublin. Hello,
Dublin.
everyone.
Okay.
Hi, Omar. Hi, Ashley. Is that Ashley?
Yeah.
Hi,
Gary.
Yep.
Hi.
The more people that stay home and as this process continues, the more energized the organic matrix will become, because people are unplugging from the artifice and they're amping up the core signal.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
Omar, I'm totally agreeing with you. What we are seeing is the systematic dismantling of the matrix, strut by strut. It's like you got to take out the economy, you got to take out politics, just like doing a Jenga. Like, I'm going to take out this, I'm going to take out this, and then so we are like the teetering. We're at the end of the cocktail party. We're teetering. And the problem is, a lot of people who are just purely materialistic are very attached to the Jenga game. They're attached to the matrix, and they think it's the end of their world, and that's why they bought all the toilet paper. But people like perhaps myself and other people that are on this video conference, the people that are going to watch this, they are cheering, not because we want to see anybody die, not because we want anybody to suffer hardship, but because the status quo was unsupportable. It's like when you're in so much pain, you're like, I gotta do something in order to change this. And this is it. We were getting like the healing, the systemic rectification. And I really, what my other lovely fellow Aurora was saying, it's this moment is a moment of pure potential, that we're approaching this singularity, not science, not the singularity of like transhumanism, but a moment of pure potential that is like the seed that everything blossoms from. And when we put our intentions into that moment, we get to have an amazing expansion that we're part of the script writing. We're making the reality happen. So the biggest caveat is that so many people think it's a totalitarian takeover. The NWO has won. Everyone else is powerful but me, but you can't put that into the seed. You can't put that into the moment of expansion, because then that will be your reality. So we have to encourage everyone to reach for their inner divine guidance, their inner connection, their inner creativity, your quantum observership, all the things that make you more than just a little computer, and to harness that creativity.
Mm-hmm. And Aurora, the best thing is that at the end of all this, we're going to get to take a break from all the teaching we've been doing, and we're just going to be like, okay, we're here to answer questions. We've been doing this for a while now. Like, I'm over here putting out fires every time we have fire in California for the last 10 years that's near me. And so the whole contrast is weird, because yesterday my mom came over wearing nitrile gloves and a surgical mask to hang out with me. And
was it N95? Was it the high particulate?
No, she had on like a lamer mask. But my first my first response was, "Mom, you're safe. that's sad to see. You're in my apartment. It's clean here. Take all that off and relax. And it took her like 45 minutes to take the gloves off, and she wore the mask the entire time and tried to justify as to why. But that's not even the point. The point is everything that Aurora just said is spot on, and I have been teaching or counseling or doing all of this type of weird stuff in some capacity or other since 2006, 2007, when I had realized what actually had happened, which was I walked in as well. I had this car accident that literally I saw myself floating out of my body up into the sky. And I went under an 18-wheeler truck to the middle of my steering wheel and then smashed into the cement divider at 65 miles an hour. And it was the most transcendent and peaceful experience in my entire life up until that point. I had never been so happy about anything, actually. And I stopped, when the car stopped, I looked up and there was no roof left. And I just stared into the sky and I thought, boy, that's weird. So that's what it looks like when you die? You get to watch yourself float up into heaven? Well, I don't feel bad about this, so I must not be going to hell. Weird. I wonder if there is what's actually, and then I took my hand and tried to stick it through my chest, and nothing happened, and I thought, well, it's not like that Bill Cosby movie. Okay. Ghost, where he walks through the walls. And then I was like, well, this is weird. So I looked over the window, and there was a big pool of red stuff, and I thought, oh, I'm for sure dead. And then 2 seconds later, these people roll up to the window, and they're like, we just wanted to make sure you weren't dead. We called you an ambulance. Gotta go, bye! And I was like, you're kidding, right? And so I guess I'm not dead. Oh, that's weird. And I was like, do I still have my laptop? And I looked over, and it was like covered in glass shards and all this. But I hail off the ambulance and say, hey, no, I don't have medical insurance. It's going to be too expensive. I don't want to be paying for one day for the rest of my life just because I wanted to get checked out. I feel fine. So 2 years later, I finally figured out that day of that accident corresponded to a very ancient calendar system. The very next day in the wheel, the Mayan calendar system is really cool. Anybody who hasn't studied it, it's worth looking into. But they have this wheel of 13 symbols, and that repeats ad infinitum through larger and larger cogwheels of time. But that accident, this is the day I was born, and this is the next cogwheel in the procession of 13. So that day was my reincarnation, and this is fun. This world is fun.
Wow. Omar, can I break in for one moment?
Sure. I was going to finish with, we're entering new territory here as a species.
Yeah.
I didn't want to stop your flow, but I wanted to say, it sounds like you went through a portal of experience. That death can be viewed not as like a grim reaper that cuts you down, but as a portal that you go through. And you're not the same person that you were. But I'm not just talking about ego death. I'm talking about like a literal dimensional portal that on many, many timelines you did die. And that you managed to switch your consciousness, like pick up the needle of the record, move it over one groove, right? Like in the Mayan calendar, and then set the needle down on another groove and continue going. So the people that knew you from your old world, from your old trajectory, like to them, you died. You got smashed up on the highway. But to you, you did not die. And this is like any type of, wonderful story that we've ever heard about, like, where you're in a dream within a dream within a dream within a dream. Like you keep on pouring more sidewalk for yourself so you can keep on moving forward until you get to, the culminative moment.
Mm-hmm. Where you then create more sidewalk without having to actually pour. Yeah.
And also you might want to be in a different format. Like you might want to change who you are, your trajectory, your whatever, like your context, but you're still pouring sidewalk or some equivalent.
Oh, everything's been completely different since that day. Yeah. And it's taken a lot of time to integrate and to figure out what I want to keep and what I want to chuck and where I want to go from there.
I think it's even accurate that we're all in the land of the dead. Like you and I, we know that we died, right? Like we're like the meta experiencers. We know that we're in a dream. But there's a lot of people that die and they don't even know that they died. Like back in Woodstock, I had this one friend and he told me the story of why he moved upstate because he was on the L train down in the city and he said that there was like a bullet that whizzed past his head. He's like, I felt it go right past me and I ducked down and I knew that that was when I had to move out of the city. And I thought to myself, this character, like he doesn't even know that he died. Like no offense, he's already passed on at this point. But then do you know what he passed on from? From brain cancer. So he couldn't consciously recognize in this level of the dream that he had been shot in the head in another reality and he was still experiencing residual consciousness. So in this level of the dream, he developed brain cancer, which was then how he exited the dream.
Wow. Yeah, I get that 100%.
And I don't mean to speak ill of this person at all. Like he has he was a good person.
No, not at all. That's actually really interesting because in ancient Egypt, one of the last times that I remember dying very, very vividly, I had been a magician on the royal court under the command of the pharaoh, and he had wanted some new kind of tax law thing going on. I don't normally talk about this; it's weird, but he had basically threatened me, do this thing or else. And so I did the thing, and then I fled Egypt in exile through the deserts into Jordan. And along the way, I was stabbed with a spear by a roving gang of thieves. And in 2008, when I got jumped, walking down the street to work, I was jumped by a roving gang of thieves. And they wanted my wallet. And that day... right after that, I walked into my house and I felt this burning, searing pain like I had been stabbed with a spear. And I remembered immediately that previous memory. And I still have a spot right here on my side that's like, it's a little puffy, but that's where I was stabbed in that past life. So it's interesting how the timelines literally correlate directly and through all that space-time, and you can either, or time-space, and you can either evolve iteratively through your will and survive, or you can just be like, all right, dude, I'm done, fuck it. Let's let this thing recycle itself, but you're going to come back later. So that's a weird thing to carry around in your awareness, that type of non-linearity and type of linearity all at the same time. But that is the dream within the dream within the dream. It's like the mirror in the bathroom. You turn the thing and it's like...
Right. And I think that there's even an emotional trajectory. Like at first you're like, wait, I'm in a dream. And then you go through it so much and you're like, I'm over it. Like this is like in Groundhog Day at a certain point, like he just eats pastries. He's like, I don't even care. Like, I don't know how to get out of here. I'm just going to eat pastries. And then you get past that depression and hopelessness. And then you figure out, what do I actually need? What's the exit point?
Mm-hmm. And I think, if I can interject, I think people, as a multidimensional divine being, which we all are, we can make it really, 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 really hard on ourselves. Whether it's ourselves, in this current sort of linear bound consciousness spark, it doesn't matter whether you say it's yourself or it's the Godhead. It doesn't matter. You can make it extremely fucking difficult, like really, really, really bad. So like we can give ourselves a little bit of slack, I think, when judging the situation, because it has been very heavy, very much so.
Compassion.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I like to use, is compassion.
Hi,
for the humanness of it all, in the dream.
Welcome, Spencer. We only have 2 minutes left, but I think I will reload it one more time since we have a new guest, and we'll continue the multi-dimensional snail show on the other side. But we have 2 more minutes left for this one. How's it going, Spencer?
Decently enough. The sun is finally out here.
Yeah. Are you having a little better times? I know you're feeling heavy the last few days, right?
Yeah. It all kind of came to a crux, like yesterday maybe, and some stuff I had planned for today, it's not happening anymore. So it's always strange when like the feeling of canceling plans at like your leisure. It feels good sometimes. It releases like a little bit of like relief chemical there, but then like when you're really, really looking forward to doing and seeing somebody or something, it's just like, damn it. There's no pleasure there at all. But yeah, I've just been trying to like keep everything around my immediacy as clean as possible. I went over to my grandfather's property. I was helping him do some stuff out there, and when I left, him and I, we used to go hunting a lot. So he's the one that still hunts and stuff, but he gave me a bunch of axis deer, like ground beef and like some fillets. So like we get them processed in a town that's like maybe 5 hours from here, and it's worth the drive to have the meat processed there. So looking forward to getting in the kitchen and cooking.
You're working on the farm.
That sounds delicious.
Yeah.
I'm excited. I feel blessed because like I open up the fridge and there's food. I open up the cabinet and there's toilet paper. You know, so, little silver lining.
You're fortunate. We don't have that. I found the square napkins. I found a store actually had those. So we're gonna get creative here.
Mine were gifts from my grandmother.
Yeah.
I was making.
Okay, sorry people. That's another rude Zoom interruption. I'm gonna do one more, no more, and then we will do home things. Kitty things. Kitty pooped, right? It's very good. Okay. Good. Okay. Last round. I think Aurora's saying peace out. What else did we have in there? One more.
There we go.
Okay. We're back. Spencer's back.
Round them up. Set up the dominoes.
Right. We've had a lot of people flowing through here, actually. We had, I don't know, we're well over 10. Maybe not well over 10. We're definitely over 10 guests.
Good. Everybody's at home.
I know. Nobody has any excuse for not being on the show. Literally, like, everyone that I know should be trying to come on here and let us know how their little quarantine is going. But, yeah, this is the last round. We're in the final quarter of the snail show, so. Yeah.
Hey, question for you guys.
Mm-hmm.
I have a question. I'm going to put this link in a chat. I wonder if you've ever heard of this guy, Cyrus
Parsa?
Yeah, you familiar with him?
Mm-hmm. He's warring against the corporatized AI.
Yeah. What do you think about him?
I did read that. I read that piece, and I don't know. I know that like to do that is like you're literally taking the monsters of the world to court. Like that's what you're pretending to do, and I don't know if that's even possible, unless he's some sort of power player that nobody has heard of yet. that's not something that you just go and just do like that.
The regime owns the courts.
Yeah, exactly. So it's either like a joke piece or it's something to. It's like the AI pretending that, you know, something is going to come, like, take it to court or something. I don't know. So I feel like it's just some level of the chess game. I really don't know.
Yeah, it feels like he's a gatekeeper. I mean, it says that his mission is to help safeguard humanity first. I mean, I hear the same shit with Elon Musk, you know?
Mm-hmm.
That's always what it is. They're trying to, you know, keep us safe.
Right. Yeah, even though in the law books, corporations, you know, fake persons have more protections than actual human beings, and in practical experience, as we all see with our own eyeballs, like that's the human being itself has never had more protection than the group mind ever. Not as far as I've ever seen.
Ashley, he registered his domain 2 years ago, and it's registered with GoDaddy, which is funny. That means he's not to be taken seriously. But what he'll probably be doing is be thrust into some kind of corporatized leveraging role, like you said, being a mouthpiece. My guess, without actually thinking too much about it, is that he is going to be responsible for explaining some facet of blockchain to everyday people and ensuring their privacy needs are met or their autonomy needs are met, or some kind of interoperable agency that assures the public that although computers serve a larger role in our daily lives than ever, like some Tom Cruise movies shit, it's okay, and it's not going to be like Minority Report, but I'm here on your side to make sure that the computers stay in check.
Yeah. That's pretty much what I got.
Yeah, let me go run into my corner now and meditate and snort coke off of, you know, toilet rails.
Yeah, and so this is a lot of what my presentation next week is going to be tapping into, is just kind of looking at particular situations and just helping people to have greater levels of discernment. And
by the way, all of you folks who are eventually going to find this chat because you all have X-key access and stuff like that, we're not a threat to you guys. We're just discussing amongst ourselves. And it's interesting to us because we care about this world, and we're not trying to overthrow any of you. We just are here. So we're here. Hi. That's it.
Yeah. I always just say hi to all of the ones who are behind the scenes pretending like they aren't there.
Yeah, dude, I would like to have X-key score access for like a week just to see what I could find because it would be so much fun, but I don't really need to know those things.
But
it would be interesting.
Access? What is that exactly?
X-key? Oh, it's a direct access to the search engine that interfaces with Lockheed, Boeing, DARPA, FBI, ARIN, a whole bunch of different databases. It's like a search engine for the alphabet soup, but it's contextual and it's meta-narrative driven. So if you want to find a certain type of information, it's very high level. It'll say something like, find all the whereabouts of such and such social security number for the last 30 days and find all relationships between that person and this person. Go. Wow. And then it will find everything about everything. It'll register your license plate through fucking red light cameras you've driven by. It is down to the grain.
It sounds like the hammer that Aurora was talking about. Is it a similar thing?
Oh, the hammer is just what they trust local law enforcement agencies with. It's a very, 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 very compacted data set of one of those tools. X-key is like 300 or 400 different tools in a suite.
Okay. I don't think I have access to that.
None of us do.
Yeah. I don't think I would want access to that. I already have enough to deal with even while I'm trying to hide from social media and all this other stuff. Like, I don't need to be searching for that bullshit.
Actually, it's funny. While we're on the topic, very briefly, Ashley and I, in the past, were befriended by this one gentleman who, for his own anonymity and probably our safety, will remain nameless. But He was talking about weird things about implants and defense contractors, things like that. And at one point, he was what they call vetted. So he had people tapping his lines all the time to make sure that he never stepped out of line. And at one point, his boss sent me a message through Facebook that said, "Hey, I know you've been talking with so-and-so, but party's over now, boys. You need to block him from your Facebook and stop talking with him." And he said, we want to all stay on the good side, right? And he's the boss is in Sweden, and so the English is a little funny. But I said, "Yeah, I'm on the good side. I know what you're talking about." And so I blocked the guy, and he says, "Now you have to block me too," and I blocked him too. But before I did that, he ran some script, and it was throwing commands into Messenger. And I was thinking, I've seen that before, and it was X key score stuff. And so then a week and a half later goes by, and this guy is still talking to me through secret messages, because I guess he's not as smart as he said he was. And I'm getting all these messages, and I'm like, this is weird. Why is he still talking to me? And the boss comes into Messenger again and says, "Hey, I know you've been talking to so-and-so in secret messages. You really need to stop talking to this guy. Just block him already. I thought you said you did." And I said, "Yeah, but then I just, I was still drinking at the time. It didn't take. And I had went to sleep. I hit block, and I closed the thing, and it didn't take. So I blocked him again, and blocked the other guy again, and it was really weird because the guy was working at an aerospace engineering company, and the guy who kept coming in and telling me to fuck off for my own good was the son of the head of the Swedish police and Interpol at one point. So these are high-level players. They're not just fucking around. Mm-hmm. So it's interesting. And those are the types of people with X key access.
Huh. Yeah, it's very interesting to me to contemplate these. I had to do a sort of switcheroo inside of my own head with what I considered the spy agencies, the CIA, NSA, DARPA, all these things, all of these agencies. When you're growing up, you're thinking, oh, it's law enforcement, it's government, it's high level, high power, they're bigger than me or whatever. And then I realized, no, they're not anything better or bigger or anything. It's just they have different access codes than we do. And if anything, what differentiates them is that they're hiding when they're discussing something, and I'm not. I'm simply out here with my full name, and I'm just discussing what I'm discussing. I'm not behind a firewall. I'm not behind some encryption. I'm just out. And these other guys are nameless, faceless, eavesdroppers almost. They don't even communicate with me. I've never had someone reach out and say, hey, do discuss this, don't discuss this. This is, what we want you to do or don't do. I've never had that.
Yeah, Gary, the metrics that dictate their job responsibilities also dictate the protocols of their engagement with people, because they do hold high responsibility positions. So that's really all that is. It's a set of protocols to maintain that their job gets done correctly and safely.
Mm.
With that said, though, Gary, I probably can almost guarantee that you have interfaced with a human agent.
You have.
You've talked with one, and you were not aware, maybe, or maybe you had some suspicions.
They're very good at what they
common.
do.
Perhaps.
They're very good at what they do.
It's happened to me many times over.
I've never had anything happen in the way that I thought as a child that something would happen, where you get some message and someone's like, hey, you can't do this, or, using the sort of the threat or the force component. I've never had any interaction like that. And maybe that's just a total erroneous conceptualization of what the those agencies are actually about. I'm not really sure exactly how they operate.
Without getting too far into it, there's also the aspect of possibly being mind wiped. But yeah, absolutely. When you're a kid, you think secret decoder rings and meet me behind the alley and you get a message in a bottle or any of those weird types of things. But it's far more vanilla for the most part. Just the other day, I had this lady that works at DoD blow her cover because I asked her to run a network operator test on her cell phone, and the ANAC came back as being the GPRS for DoD in Columbus, Ohio. And I just have access to these tools as a nerd, but I looked up her GSN, and the way that the cell phone works is it has to hit a signal to get an IP address to communicate with the world through the provider. And her IP address for her cell phone had the provider data network of DoD. And I looked it up and I was like, yeah, okay, well, you don't get a phone from this PDP unless you work for the DoD. And PDP is provider data packet thing. So I was like, I'm going to block you. And I checked in with my buddy who used to work for Northrop Grumman. And I said, dude, you don't get unless you work for da-da. And he's like, yep, most assuredly. And I was like, yep, thought so. And so I felt bad for a few minutes because 30 or 40 people suddenly unfriended this lady, and I was reading about it through the back chatter for a few days about, did you hear that so-and-so works for the blah, blah, blah? And I was like, oops.
Did she
I hope you weren't working on anything important.
Did she respond at all, or did she try to defend herself, or did she admit anything like that happened?
For like a day or two, she started playing with this story about how her family's been trailed by the government, but and she thinks that somebody had hacked her phone, but you'd have to replace the phone. I mean, you could rootkit the software on the phone, and then all of a sudden it could have a different PDP that it assigns to, but the regular hardware doesn't have that switchability unless you hack the phone on a root level, and you can't do that over the air. You have to actually replace the device because the chips aren't keyed to that exact frequency. It's a slightly different bandwidth set within the hardware. Like, it communicates on a sub-channel within the... It's nerdy. This isn't making any sense to anybody except me, but the point is that couldn't have happened unless she actually had the phone issued to her in hand by the government agency. So she tried for a little bit, but it didn't really... I think 60 people ended up blocking her because of that. So that wasn't my intention. But you should unfollow this so-and-so because she worked for the so-and-so.
Okay.
But it's ironic because he used to work for Northrop Grumman.
Yeah.
Which is a government black agency. I mean, really, it's a collective trust as a Delaware corporation, but that's getting into legal crap now.
So, what do we think is going to replace the dollar? Is there going to be a replacement? Is it going to be crypto? Blockchain, you think?
Gold? Yeah, I mean, they're talking about a digital dollar that has full transparency.
Well, actually, when Gary first started the show a couple hours ago, he said that his friend in YouTube had said the Fed just pulled the 10% reserve limit.
That was me.
Oh, that was you. Okay. So, did you hear what that did to my brain? Because that
I heard it.
that was the go ahead for the blockchain adoption. That was the flag.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, the same article or presentation that I was watching went on to explain a lot further about digital dollar and
Digidollar,
showed
thank you.
reports and articles and news presentations, cuttings and stuff that trailed a lot of information about the digital dollar. So
I'm listening.
I tried to go back and find the exact precise screen grab of the text.
What what was the source on that?
Well, it was on the James Corbett report, and
okay.
The script was taken from one of the news media. I don't know if it was the Wall Street Journal or I just have to go back through it to find out where it was said. But I came across it twice as well. I also came across it on Twitter separately from a few days ago. So I've seen it twice from two different places.
Well, that's indication then that they're informing all the API routers, news agencies of all this. Because I just threw an article into the thing that was published on Forbes not too long ago by one of their head analysts, and it has what his position is and what his background is in there. But he's talking about the digital dollar adoption in there. It's like a page or two long. And by all accounts and purposes, that's where the transition is. It's always been kind of planned, but now it's actually occurring.
Yeah, it seemed like that it was quite likely to come about, and the circumstances that are currently happening are, practically making it more feasible. And every shop I go into now, a lot of them are refusing to take cash. So, the events that are happening as well tally to the financial development. If they're in separate parallel worlds or whether they are or not.
I'm wondering, can I ask a question? The implications of this digital dollar would mean that there would be virtually no black market anymore, right? No transaction would go unseen. That's basically what this is.
Actually,
well, I don't think things are separate. I think there'll probably be black market, but they probably won't be able to trace it, or unless they find a way around it.
Actually, and what it means is the black market will become goods and services.
There'll be no white market. That's the way I see it.
It won't have a currency attached to it. And Susie, just from a second ago, when in 2014 the CEO of PayPal went on record saying that he had invested significantly in Bitcoin. So what's going on with all the people who have or haven't invested in Bitcoin is they have to gauge a certain perspective of what the market cap or the holding cap looks like to transition from the system wherein they have so you have this pyramid of how much money people have, or you have this box, and inside that box there are people who with the dollar have traditionally had a lot of money or have had a little bit of money, and all the different gradients in between rich and poor. And what they were seeding with the adoption of Bitcoin as a currency was that they needed to establish what it would look like. They needed a translational matrix from dollar richness to what do we code this blockchain thing as? How much money do we put into it? What do we need it to do? How will it operate given certain variables like population and GDP and this and that, and former designations from the Federal Reserve like special drawing rights and those types of instruments of leverage and tracking through a financial system. So with the early adoption of blockchain, selling shares and all the different coins, what they were doing was building that translational matrix from cash to the new synthetic system so they can have a better understanding of how to implement it accurately.
Makes sense. I just know when I first looked into Bitcoin and I did the math, Bitcoin was, the Satoshi was able to equivalent or be equivalent to roughly around what the penny was worth. So I saw immediately that Bitcoin as an overall system was built to be able to encompass our entire economy as it currently stands. So I knew that it was wanted to be at least an option for implementation should the current system decide it needs to crash.
There was also a cap on Bitcoin initially of 17 billion Bitcoin or something like that.
I think
they may have uncapped it, but
wasn't it 21 something? 21?
Yeah, it was 21 something, I think.
21 billion?
I think 21 million.
Billion.
I remember the number 21.
21 million?
Billion. 21 million.
Billion, Ben?
Billion.
Google million, billion.
Million.
Gazillion.
What's interesting about that is that means that they could have gone about it a couple of ways. Either they were planning on giving everybody on Earth a percentage of that, or they were just putting that into the system and comparing it to the old to see how it operated, or who knows, option C maybe.
Does anyone know what is the current mine capacity of Bitcoin? Like, what's the current percentage that have been mined out of the 21 million?
No.
They have it every 4 years or something. It gets cut in half the amount of Bitcoins you get. So this is supposed to get cut from 12.5 Bitcoins for every transaction. I don't know how the 12 relates, how much transactions you have to do to get that, but it goes from 12 to 6, and it keeps halving every 4 years until it gets to a microscopic level. Because they're trying it's not able to be controlled by a central agency or the way that they do with the fiat currency. They wanted, at least on the public level, that's how it was being portrayed. That cap the level, cap the total number, so you can't just create whenever you want.
Ben, that's very important because what you're describing there is it's an important control mechanism. The way the interest and the current system works, obviously, it expands outward and outward and outward and outward forever until it's mathematically impossible to divide by zero. But what that does with the Bitcoin and with the halving is it takes the mathematical thing, and instead of being an inversion 1 over x financial system, you now have x over 1, and when you have it, the system gets too big, and it computes that, and it checksums that throughout the entire ledger, and then it halves it.
Here's the
and then
18
it
million.
halves it.
18 million have been mined, and there's roughly 2 million, 3 million left to mine.
Okay, and it halves it, and every and every time the way that I think the system is going to work is they're just going to do n+1. So every time the entire block of 18 million or 21 million is mined, they're just going to have it again, and then add 18 million more or 21 million more. And so what that will do is it will almost equal out to being, and I'm sorry guys, I'm really math. It'll eventually equal out to a 1-to-1. Near 1-to-1. It'll never totally be 1-to-1, but if this is what it looks like with our current, it'll almost be a 1-to-1 translation of Bitcoin to tangible physical assets.
Huh.
So they still have some locus of control over it, but it's almost an equal exchange. It's actually a pretty beautiful system mathematically. It's just the interesting thing about it is, because it's a beautiful system mathematically, it's almost 1-to-1. It will probably have a lot more success as far as wealth equanimity than the dollar does because of how it's designed. It'll take a while to get there, but it will end up being that way.
So I think it's funny, if I can jump in, to notice that there's a lot of talk about essential jobs and services, and been thinking about it today a lot, and it's now, I'm officially not essential to the system whatsoever, and I haven't been for a long time, but unlike medical people or doctors or finance people or people cleaning plumbing, artists, musicians, people providing humor, people providing anything to the to the soul in any way. Now categorically stamped.
That's not essential.
Unessential.
Yeah. Yeah.
You can now stay. Yeah. I don't know. I think it's the statement.
What was your career, Susie?
I'm an artist.
Yeah.
I've been redundant to the system at large, and have felt that for many years. But it's kind of nice to have it drawn a line in the sand, where, in fact, I think it may be a crossing point. That now that that's stated, now maybe it'll mark a switch over to the other side. Maybe I don't know. I think it's I don't know if anyone has any thoughts on.
I know there's a guy that I know who has a YouTube channel. He has about 1,000 subs. I've watched him a little bit. His channel is called like 007 or something like that. I think he's also in Europe. He's in maybe he's in Ireland. I'm not sure, but he was a musician. So he was saying my job has been to entertain people. My job is solely dependent on social interactions, right? And now during this thing, social interactions are banned, right? So his job has been cut off just by virtue of you're not supposed to be close to people. At least
my closest friend is a musician, and he's for the first time in 24 years been able to receive social welfare. Because all forms of entertainment or in the foreseeable are now, and that's how he's been a professional musician for 20 odd years. So I mean, in a way, they're saying they're not essential, but they're also able to claim money in the system. But they're not essential to now, and it's strange because I think essentially, if everybody's totally depressed and terrified that they're going to die and get sick,
yeah, right.
Right. If anything's essential, I think an awful lot of things would be like beautiful things, paintings, music, humor, comedy.
Exactly.
I don't know. To me, that's as essential as food, and it always has been. But
I think it's just because the realm itself is the upside down of Stranger Things. It's the upside down of Stranger Things. So whatever you consider to be valuable as a human, just know that the system is going to say that's not valuable whatsoever, and they're not going to give you any money for that.
It feels funny though. It feels sort of, I don't know, in a way, sort of pleasing in a way to get an official stamp. Say not essential. No, here's your just in case you were unsure about it in any way, or you thought you might come out of your hole and.
No, Susie, we actually have a job for you. You need to fill out these IRS returns for people because.
Or just go and be a hedge fund, soon somewhere,
Susie, there's a lot of people that are going to be experiencing that whole. Remember how Aurora was talking about the decolonization process earlier?
Yeah.
Well, part of that decolonization process is. The ego death that is invariably going to happen when people realize that the job they've been doing isn't actually essential. The meaning that person assigns to the job is essential, and the role of collecting money from that job is essential. But the job itself may well just have been an artifice.
I think I think even the system itself, that the fact that so many people can work from home says an awful lot about how many jobs are unessential in a way, because if you can do it at home, not all jobs, but a lot of jobs, if you can do it at home, if you don't have to actually be at a place, you're not creating something in a front line. If you're at home moving figures around, or if you're at home filling out, comment review forms, or so many things, not essential. It's just
the guy that checks, exactly, like the guy who checks your receipt at the door when you buy something and puts a highlighter mark on it, or the Walmart greeter.
Or all the advertising industry, the whole industry.
Mm-hmm.
Well, in a lot of ways, those types of jobs are actually essential because they build the human ability aspect of a company like Best Buy. You know, yeah, sure, it's annoying to have to stop before you leave the store with something you just bought, if you're an honest person and you know that. But that's an essential job, but at the same time, it's not an essential job because the company doesn't need that to keep track of things. But it's an essential job for the company to remain humanistic. So then what does an essential job mean? That gets really interesting. Really quickly.
But if the company was humanistic, it would just be humanistic. It wouldn't need to, I don't know, present itself as so. I worked in advertising for a long time, and I was very aware of the absolute lack of contribution or necessity for the role in particular that I was doing. I mean,
well, we're going to have a dramatic restructuring.
A kind of demand, a fake kind of supply and demand. But
we need to start bartering again.
But also, I think the main thing I'd like to say is that none of this, I see an awful lot of it as positive, and for me, I think the conditions that I find myself in that are happening right now are absolutely optimal. And very little has changed for me. I have been living like this. I'm self-isolate, have been for years, increasingly, for a number of reasons, because I function optimally at the very, the less social interaction I have, the ratio to how I perform is increased. And it's almost like a total gift now. There's absolute silence. I can hear my thoughts. The beaches are empty when you go out to have a walk. There's nobody around. There's no kerfuffle. The level of energy is beautiful. It's flowing.
I agree with you, Susie.
I kind of keep trying to tap into the fear, and I see people around and run into them when I go out, and I've been trying to see if I can worm my way into it, you know, because I'm kind of in denial, or I kind of can't understand the fact that I feel so fear, because I used to be such a neurotic, and I used to be such a hypochondriac. Like if someone got sick, or if there was a mention of any kind of syndrome going, I would just get it by automatic suggestion. And my neighbor told me that his brother just came back from hospital, got a phone call from the health services to say that he was in contact, and I'm walking their dog every day, and I'm just like, no, I don't think it's a problem. I don't know, the dog anyway, you're at the lead is a couple of meters, but yeah, I'm surprised that I'm not able to go into the fear, and the conditions that are happening are really just reinforcing that and making it more possible to feel good and to feel happy, and
if you notice, I think it's really fascinating to look. Sorry, Susie. If you look at how this is manifesting, because the people themselves are not actually concerned unless they actually feel sick, see someone sick. You know, unless it's touched them in some personal way, they're not scared. Okay. Unless they just feel fear because they hear the word pandemic. Maybe that's a possibility. But
I think people are glued to the news all the time and lapping it up like
that's the problem. Yeah,
and
I agree.
In the country, people are very addicted to the news.
But no, just let me finish.
Sorry, go ahead.
Because the corporations are defined as persons, yes. So they have some essence of self-preservation, and somehow the corporate self-preservation has become stronger in a sense than the individual human ability to self-preserve, which is very strange and highly backwards. But of course, you know where you are,
and it's got more rights and everything. Yeah.
Right, but if you notice who's making a big fuss about all this. We've been receiving emails from literally every single corporation that we're connected to, and they all say the same shit. Hey guys, this is AT&T. Remember to wash your hands. You know, like they do some dumb shit like that. They're all the same thing, but you can tell that this corporate person is attempting to worry, right? It's attempting to be afraid. And why is that happening? Because their lifeblood, which is this petrodollar thing that flows through the fake corporate person's blood, is being threatened somehow because the economic situation is tanking. So you're watching a fake person be scared of losing their fake status as a person, And somehow that's being told to the real people, you must worry about this too, because somehow like we're the same thing because we're both called persons. It's very strange.
Yeah, and I totally agree. But I see it as, like, never seen it so before as a clear choice. It's totally optional. Jump into it. Mm-hmm. Or totally don't. Like, right. and you can just go, I'm in it, and go that way, or you can, and I notice I'm not in it, I'm actually totally out of it. It's like the wall is.
Yeah, it's right there.
So massive,
it's right in front of you, and you can jump.
It's like,
yeah.
Oh, that person's on the wall. I'm on this side of the wall.
Yeah.
And you can't bring them over. Today I met a lady when I was on the beach, and she was sitting on a rock, and she was about 6 meters from anyone, and she was saying, I just got off the phone, and in the Czech Republic, they're making everybody, legally, they can't go out without masks. Like, this was brilliant, and why can't we have that? And sharing it with me, okay, yeah, that's interesting, and, best of luck, and, but,
it's silly.
Yeah, it's bizarre, but it's kind of, I don't know, I find it really kind of encouraging because it's like, the things that I thought all along are becoming more kind of tangibly true.
The ones who have been called conspiracy nutters, whether explicitly or not, are actually being seen that, at the minimum they were onto something, and at the maximum they were completely right the entire time, while you were the one that had your fucking head in the
sand. But not even in the intellectual kind of, this is true and that's not true, the actual kind of how the choice that you have to be affected by the negativity, that is so tangibly becoming more truthful every day. I think it's kind of amazing to me.
And it's very quiet compared to what it could be. Like, I expected, if people are actually believing that this is a global pandemic that's going to decimate our population, people should be freaking out and like screaming and running in circles and hugging each other and crying and all this stuff. I have not seen one
if I really believed it, I'd be out on the street screaming, howling, baying naked in the wind, like.
It's the end of the world. Let's go have sex with everybody, or whatever you do when you think the world's ending.
Well, that's the thing. Does anybody know of anybody that knows of anybody that has this? Because, I mean, if it was a pandemic, people would be dropping left and right. I mean, people die of things all the time. Mm-hmm. I mean, flu is, it's funny because I was telling Gary, I am a transporter for Cars for Hertz. And we've been moving cars everywhere.
This is Gia. This is Gia. And also, sorry, Gia, this thing is ending. It's ending in like a minute.
Oh, okay.
I'm sorry you jumped on so late, but this
is... Oh, no, that's okay. I've just been listening.
This is
it's eyes open person.
Okay. it's a person, eyes open. Okay. We have like 30 seconds left. I have to actually cut this short because this has been really long, and I got to actually like live my own life as well. But
Hey, Gia?
Yes.
Can you join on my site? I don't know how else to continue this discussion about bartering.
So we're
mytribes.net, Gia. Just go to mytribes.net, and his name on there is Omar. Okay?
Got you. I see.
All right, that's enough. Thank you, everybody who's hung out this entire time. We are still at 9, I think. It's pretty decent. We got things to do. YouTube froze up. Yeah, of course the things don't want us talking about the things like always, but maybe next weekend, Jojo, if you want to hop on, we'll make sure you get up in there. But again, thanks to everyone who joined, and I gotta go now, so we'll see you around. Where is...
Katie, you can't hide up there forever.
She's like...
Fuck you, yes I can.
She's like, au contraire.
She just got even more comfortable. She wants to live there. I should put her a pillow up there.
Yeah. Okay, I gotta turn this sucker off. Wow, we had a lot of people coming through. Everybody's at home. Yep, thanks for coming on, Susie. That was fun. Next weekend we'll do it again. 10 a.m. 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. All right. That's not correct. Maybe this is correct. Ah, here we go. Limited. Not suitable for most advertisers. How dare you? We're talking about elephants that aren't in the room. How could that be not suitable for most advertisers? How? Warning, warning, not suitable for most advertisers. All right, people, this is truly the end. So thanks again, and I'll see you maybe sometime during the week, but if not, I'll see you next weekend. Bye-bye.